Nell. Ladies and gentlemen of the media and my fellow countrymen and women, having concluded our investigations, we'll be filing charges against 12 suspects who worked as directors and staff of the NSA. I've already listed them, but for the abundance of doubt, let me mention them again. These are Mustafa Yusuf, a former executive director; Osea Sibe Entry, former director general; Gifty Owari Mensah, former deputy executive director; Kweku Ohinijan, former deputy executive director for operations; Abraham Bismarck Gezi, former internal auditor; Kweku Dechi Eje, an accounts officer; Idrusu Ibn Abubakar, former head of accounts; Stephen Kobina Jemfi, we have asked that he should be rearrested because we've discovered some new accounts that contain some deposits, and so he was picked up this morning. So he is currently he's undergoing further interrogation. Koforidua, he's the Koforidua director. Then Prince Agofa Ewuku, a district director, and Jacob Yorsin, management information systems administrator in the northern region. We will also file charges against the following persons who are vendors on the marketplace on the central management system of the NSA in the eastern, Greater Accra, and Ashanti regions. Isaac Osei Asamani, the owner of Stalwart Option Buy Ventures; Charles Ohomening, the owner of GH Ohek Ventures; Philomena Arthur, the owner of Brainwave Ventures; Rose Hamilton, the owner of Marine Ventures; Kweku Opare Agofa, the owner of Franlisa Ventures; Solomon Jamina, the owner of Afarita Ventures; Haruna Mawulaya, the owner of Alfaida Enterprise; Sylvia Ntriwa Opare, the owner of Silsona Ventures; and then Peter Mensah, a legal practitioner and the husband of Gifty Owari Mensah. We have made the decision to enter into non-prosecution agreements with some of the persons who were involved in this criminal enterprise, especially the vendors, and these have agreed to provide compelling testimonies as witnesses for the prosecution. In this regard, we have agreed not to disclose their names or their details at this press briefing as part of the NPA, that is a non-prosecution agreement, because this is going to inure to the efficiency of the prosecutions that will be mounted. And in every prosecutorial decision making, we have the discretion to take decisions that will inure to the benefit of the Republic. And we have decided in the office, together with the investigators, that some of the marketplace vendors and some other directors and staff who came to us may be serving as prosecution witnesses. Some of them offered to be prosecution witnesses, and we rejected their offers. They came, met with my deputy, we evaluated the evidence and thought that it will be inimical to the entire prosecutorial enterprise if we accepted their offers to serve as prosecution witness. So given the numbers that we're offering to serve as witnesses, it can tell you where we are headed with this investigation. And when the trial starts, with this prosecution, when the trial starts, you'll get to know the evidence that we have meticulously gathered from February, when I took over the oral report and handed them over to NIB to the present. Having provided this factual background, our position is clear that these persons are reasonably suspected to have committed crimes and shall be charged accordingly with the following crimes: stealing, contrary to Section 1241 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29. Conspiracy to steal, contrary to Sections 23(1) and 124(1) of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Willfully causing financial loss to the state, contrary to Section 179A(3)(a) of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Using public office for profit, contrary to Section 179CA of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. obtaining public property by false statements, contrary to Section 5 of the Public Property Protection Decree 1977, SMCD 140, money laundering, contrary to Section 1, subsection 2C of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, Act 1044, and conspiracy to commit money laundering, contrary to Section 3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, Act 1020. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as part of the oral agenda, I have ordered that a comprehensive investigation of the assets of these persons be conducted. That investigation is ongoing, and we shall be pursuing the suspect to retrieve funds attributable to them and assets they have acquired using those funds. So I want to thank you very much once again for covering this press conference. God bless. March 2023 and 24th May 2024, suspect Gifty transferred 22,925,518 Ghana cedis and 69 pesos to Amiacom, 1 million Ghana cedis to Scaffold, 1,572,000 Ghana cedis to Oche, and 5,200,000 Ghana cedis to Aristo Logistics and Training. We have this on record. We have all the bank details. We have everything, in the docket. Investigations, however, established that Eric Nyako, from 2017 until April 2024, and Idrisu Ibn Abubakar, April 2024 to December 2024, were responsible for preparing and transmitting NSP payroll data to GIPS for payment of allowances with the approval of the former NSA Director General, Mustafa Yusuf, who is now an MP, Gifty Oware Abuaji, acting from February 2021 to September 2021, and Osea Sibe Inchwe, September 2021 to January 2025. Without their explicit authority, nothing was possible. In other words, all these transfers could not have taken place without the authorization of the chief executive officers and or the director general, depending on the nomenclature that was used to describe their roles. The criminal enterprise that resulted in the loss of this colossal sum of money to the state involved the creation of ghost names within the NSA payroll system by some directors and staff, which they subsequently exploited to misappropriate state funds for their personal gain. This they did in direct collaboration with vendors and other accomplices. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, our investigations have revealed that prior to the commencement of each new service year, the directors would submit to Parliament for approval a budget figure representing the number of prospective service personnel for that particular service year. Consequently, or consistently, these figures were inflated by huge numbers. During the fiscal year, the directors will write to the Minister of Finance requesting permission to utilize excess funds allocated in the budget of the National Service Authority. Once authorized, the directors will transfer the funds into NSA's project account at the Agricultural Development Bank, and under the pretext of executing projects, will divert the funds into private pockets. Another criminal scheme hatched and exploited by the directors and staff is the deployment of ghost names onto the NSA system. Once deployed, the directors will then request that both ghost names and genuine names be transmitted by the head of accounts to the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems, that is GIPS, for payment. These payments included payments to Eastwich cardholders procured for the fictitious national service personnel. Our investigations compared monthly data of verified national service personnel generated from the central management system and submitted to the NSA accounts office, and the data of the NSA personnel who were actually paid through the GIFT system for a period of 6 years. That is from 2018 to 2024. It was established that a total of 587,543 personnel were to be submitted to GIPS for payment of allowances. Meanwhile, data from GIPS showed that a total of 650,165 personnel were paid, indicating that 63,672 constituted ghost names. These consisted of the following categories of personnel. That is, national service personnel who were blocked on the CMS system during the registration process. Then personnel, national service personnel numbers that exist in the payment records but do not exist on the central management system. And then, of course, NSA or national service volunteers, and then some management staff and marketplace vendors. We will also file charges against the following persons who are vendors on the marketplace on the central management system, SNEL. Ladies and gentlemen of the media and my fellow countrymen,
while working around the clock to resolve the impasse, the Ministry of Health has taken the following steps to mitigate the suffering of Ghanaian patients unduly affected by the strike. The ministry will, in the next few minutes, publish a comprehensive list of facilities to complement facilities where nursing services are lacking and where patients can seek health care. Given the urgency of the situation and suffering of the patients, government appeals to public-spirited retired nurses and midwives to volunteer their services for a brief period pending the resolution of the impasse. We further express our deep appreciation to practicing nurses who have opted to remain at post to help suffering patients and urge others to show similar fellow feeling and assist our ailing compatriots, even as efforts are made to address their concerns. In conclusion, government reiterates its commitment to dialogue with the GRMA with a view to resolving this impasse for full nursing services to be restored.
Yes, such as Gifty Owari Mensah created and executed a meticulously detailed plan using NSP, National Service Personnel Allowances, as security to obtain a loan of 30,698,218 cedis, 69 pesos, from the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, at an interest rate of 23%. She achieved these results by using other people's information to register a company called Blocks of Life Consult without their knowledge or permission. Subsequently, she presented Blocks of Life Consult through a middleman in the person of Maxwell Akwesi Ofori-Mintah to an official of the Agricultural Development Bank, and enlisting her husband, Mr. Peter Mensah, a lawyer, to act as one of the directors or representative of the said company. She told ADB that the company specialized in supplying home appliances to national service personnel and proposed that ADB finance the company to enable it to supply these items on hire purchase basis to the service personnel, with the NSA being responsible for handling the deductions and repayments. During the period, suspect Gifty was the acting director, Gifty Owari Mensah was the acting director of the authority. However, on the marketplace of the authority, there was no indication that Blocks of Life was a registered vendor. Within 2 service years, suspect Gifty Owari Mensah used a total of 9,934 ghost names to misappropriate the aforementioned funds. Investigation further established that after ADB transferred the funds into the account of the company, she subsequently transferred the funds into 4 different company accounts with the names of Amiacom, Scaffold, Oche, and Aristo Logistics and Trading. It was further established that suspect Gifty is a director of Amiacom, and Scaffold Company Limited belongs to suspect Abraham Gazi. That between 3rd March 2023 and 24.
So we are going to do our best to restrain leakages I know you've talked about the issue of the Auditor General, and truly when you look at that, that includes all sorts of obligations from the previous government, but also 10 billion of it is really collections and loans that are being taken care of. So it's not money lost, as you would say, but certainly in all areas that we are reminded.
To get there, we must reset, and reset with discipline, with purpose and unity. On government's part, I wish to assure you that we'll maintain the current fiscal discipline and work to maintain a conducive environment for your businesses to thrive. Let me take the opportunity to commend those of you who have responded to the cedi's appreciation by reducing prices of your products and services, and thereby passing some of the relief from the hardship to Ghanaians. And so, Oka and all of you, thank you very much. GPRTU, thank you very much. And so for those of you who have not responded yet, please pass on some of the cedi appreciation to Ghanaians. My brothers and sisters, the problems we face are real, but so are the solutions. We can rebuild our economy, we can create jobs, we can restore faith in governance, but we must commit to the hard work of change. You were not appointed to occupy space. You were appointed to solve problems. Let me remind you of the social contract we have entered into. The Ghanaian people expect us to deliver, and we must not with excuses, but with results. I've said before and I repeat now, this is the legacy term of my presidency. I intend to make it count. I intend for it to matter, and I expect that every member of this administration will do the same. We must work with a sense of urgency, and President Jonathan spoke about the 4-year term. Our young people are tired of waiting interminably. Our farmers, our workers, our entrepreneurs, especially our women and youth, want to see policies that work for them. They want fairness, they want opportunity, they want to live in dignity and prosperity. Indeed, they are not asking for handouts. They're asking to be given a fair shot. And let's give them just that. The task before us requires leadership that is empathetic, that is disciplined and accountable, leadership that is not defined by titles, but by service, that is not defined by slogans, but by substance. And so I issue this challenge to each of you to lead your sectors with vision and integrity, to champion innovation, make decisions based on facts and data and not on guesswork. Spend public funds wisely and judiciously. Reject opulence. And never forget, your first duty is to the people of Ghana and not to your own political survival, not to the applause you will get, and not to your personal gain. I want each of you to leave this retreat with a clarity of purpose and with the humility to keep learning. This job is not about knowing it all. It is about listening. For example, I'll stay true to the values. And please remember, when any of us fall short, I will not hesitate to act. I didn't think that was what you would clap for. Let us leave here with renewed determination. Let us work not for applause, but for results. Let us lead with honor, and let us remember always that the true measure of our success will be the lives we touch and the legacy we leave behind. And finally, let me remind us all that the destiny of our party and our future success depends on the legacy that this current administration will establish. And so we must give it our all. We must work together to make our party's future successful. I therefore have the privilege and honor to declare this executive leadership program duly open. The Bar Association is a very prominent association amongst all the professional bodies in Ghana. And you have been strong advocates for the rule of law, for respect for human rights, for respect for the Constitution, freedoms, and all that. And I believe that that role you play is important for our society to progress. We have started the National Constitution Review exercise, and we expect that the Bar Association will take a great interest in it. I believe they've started, they're going round, and when they have finished, I'm sure that they're calling on different groups. They probably would call on the Ghana Bar Association to find out if you have any views about it. And one of the issues we're confronted with is the issue of corruption and accountability in office. And so the expectation of Ghanaians is that this government will mount a stronger fight against corruption. And that is why we set up the Operation Recover All the Loot. It's not meant to witch hunt anybody, but it's supposed to be an instrument and a vehicle where it is possible for people who are whistleblowers and have evidence of corruption to be able to channel their reports to the appropriate source and have them investigated. And so before I took over, I set up a small committee. It was very helpful. We put in a hotline. They got more than 2,000 calls from different people alleging different things. Of course, some of them were useless allegations, but others too were important allegations. And so after synthesizing all the reports that were received, we received the official reports from the committee and we handed it over to the Attorney General. And some of what the Attorney General is dealing with are some of the issues that came up in the oral. And so I just wanted to clarify that it's not an instrument for witch hunting anybody. It's an instrument for assisting in the fight against corruption. We're committed to the protection of human rights and investigation of significant killings or murders that have remained uninvestigated. And so I've urged the police and the investigative organizations to look more actively in cases like Ahmed Swali, and that is how come a first suspect has been arrested. We're hoping that his interrogation will lead to further arrests of people. There are several other cases like the J.B. Dankwa murder case, and we're asking that it be expedited in terms of the prosecution that is taking place and for investigations to be carried out to find out if any other persons were involved in some of those. And so those are ongoing, and then we also have the issue I thought I should raise of the judiciary and the perception of the judiciary. I believe that it is not anecdotal. I mean, several surveys asking Ghanaians, you know, what their opinion of the judiciary is have not come out positively. And I believe that it is a duty for all of us to work to make sure that we have a judiciary that is respected. Year in, year out, you hear 12 billion cedis misappropriated, 15 billion cedis misappropriated. And how we deal with these cases are very difficult because of the constitutional procedure, parliamentary accounts committee and all that. But after that has happened, we must have a fast-track court where we're able to deal with this so that we deter people from just misusing government funds like that. Government is open to working with you, particularly on our side of the political divide. There's this perception that we have a problem with the legal fraternity and things like that. I think that if you look at the kind of people, Marietta and all of us sitting here, we're not people who have any such animosity towards the judiciary and the legal fraternity. So our doors are open, our hands are open, and if you think that there's anything that you should bring to our attention, don't hesitate at all.
Of the absence of an effective justice delivery system, or delayed justice, or bias, justice is certainly a threat to national security. And indeed, when injustice abounds, particularly in situations where the bench, which is considered as the final arbiter of disputes, is deemed to be biased, citizens tend to take the law into their own hands, most times without recourse to the established systems of justice delivery. And similarly, the failure of the criminal justice system to ensure effective and expeditious trial of criminals adversely impact the morale of law enforcement agencies. It also emboldens criminals to perpetrate more crime and breeds lawlessness among the citizenry, developments which threaten the internal security of the state. If you are going to be able to address the security challenges that we have, especially the domestic ones, we need to be able to ensure that there is a judicial system that works. If we do not have a system, a judicial system that works, many people will simply take the laws into their own hands and misbehave and do what they want. Therefore, in trying to manage the security situation, it is important for us that we do get a judicial system that works. And we are all lucky that in the sub-region, we are perceived as a country where the judicial system works and where you could expect justice. If the interpretation of the law is tilted so much in our favor all the time, people will start accusing the judiciary and will not have the confidence that they need.
150. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
So, is this seconded? Honorable members, question numbered item 50 at page 12 of today's order paper, accordingly moved by the minister responsible for finance. Any seconder?
Yes, I second the motion.
Honorable members, the motion is moved and seconded, and it is for the consideration of the House. Honorable members, motion accordingly adopted, and the Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025 is read the third. Honorable members, the question is, those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The volume of the work is making me speed up. Honorable members, the ayes have it.
An Act to repeal the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, and the Electronic Transfer Levy Amendment Act 2022, Act 1089, and to provide for related matters.
Honorable members, the motion is adopted. The Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill 2025 is now read the third time. Yes, Majority Leader.
The people of Ghana are asking for accountability. And we must create a situation where everybody who agrees to serve must know that he will be held accountable to the people. We can't afford to fail. We've seen some things that are happening in other countries. And let's not think that Ghana is immune from that. And I can tell you, our young people are getting frustrated and desperate. And if we don't take drastic action and we think that it's going to be business as usual, we will be shocked at what would happen in this country. And so, it's not my demand, it's not a threat, as Nana Jane said, it is a promise that will hold public officers accountable. Today, I wish to reaffirm that our commitment to the people of the Savannah region will never shake. Despite the work we have done in stabilizing the economy, Ghana is not immune from the shocks of global events. Recent events in the Middle East, which involve an exchange of missiles between Israel and Iran, have started to escalate crude oil prices dramatically. I've asked our Minister of Finance and Minister of Energy to keep a close eye on the developments
that if only your faith will not tarry in Christ Jesus, you shall certainly get to your full potential someday. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Okwain way anamefa so na mama akwaba aba ene ewia jumedi so. It is always nice that we change the tempo. And how's the day? Yankwe akwaba.
That our commitment to the people of the Savannah region will never shake. Despite the work we have done in stabilizing the economy, Ghana is not immune from the shocks of global events. Recent events in the Middle East, which involve an exchange of missiles between Israel and Iran, have started to escalate crude oil prices dramatically. I've asked our Minister of Finance and Minister of Energy to keep a close eye on the development and model the possible impacts on our petroleum prices and prepare measures to protect the recent gains that we have made. Education remains
Snell. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, and my fellow countrymen and women, having concluded our investigations, we'll be filing charges against 12 suspects who worked as directors and staff of the NSA. I've already listed them, but for the abundance of doubt, let me mention them again. These are Mustafa Yusuf, a former executive director, Osea Sibe Entry, former director general, Gifty Owari Mensah, former deputy executive director, Kweku Ohinijan, former deputy executive director for operations, Abraham Bismarck Gezi, former internal auditor, Kweku Dechi Eje, an accounts officer, Idrusu Ibn Abubakar, former head of accounts, Stephen Kobina Jemfi, we have asked that he should be rearrested because we've discovered some new accounts that contain some deposits, and so he was picked up this morning. So he is currently
was MPPs for the pocket. Where the human beings are in charge and the standard is supposed to be high. Very well. Where's the issues-based analysis with accurate information? With Kofi, thank you. Emmanuel Akwasa, and I'm watching you live from a Kumfi Srakrododo. Okay, so a Kumfi Srafa Kokodo. Central region. Did I get that right? We say, and this is the future for Ghanaians and people never again. Ghana, oh Ghana, Latililai says, this one says, good afternoon, Nana Otudako and the team. About frame post more fire watching you from Broadcasting Castle Road. James K. Ability said more fire. The God Papa, I said, what for the World Cup? James K. Ability. Listen, are you loud and clear inside Tema? Thank you. It's me back over to me joining on Facebook Live on Accra100 100.5 Udu Honomu and Washamai. Yeah, baby, you maybe. But me one penny phobia, you mutia said you made you pa. And every Mr. and Mrs. Akumolga. Mr. and Mrs. Akumolga. Moti in Sakina, Mokwa Soro Evangelical Church of Ghana. In fact, I sorry no in Sakina branch, the Biamuti Citizen Show, Icham Crusade every Sansuna Efo, Mr. Ohene, or Furniture Shop, or Amasama Stadium Road, every what but him, Uti, thank you. And Yapus, I swear, yes, Shamunyana Muti. Me free Jubilee bedru yenche me ba omu chi Accra100 nti obi bia owo eye the presidency Jubilee House Flagstaff House say am friend bi amufa Thank you for doing the listening. Military base ahodoɔ, camps ahodoɔ, to say Burma camp, all the other military camps are most with here, them say. Port and harbors, all government agencies. Now program way and a different stations. Edu mamudi anomet unti we ubeti way. Ghana nyigba. Abidjafo so beye krado na ye normal so edi nkomo enchekra. Baba feel at home, relax, I feel na e bekeje play no. Kai give it to. And then so minim samonimu suspended Chief Justice Maame Tukunu say one Ghana for wasemka. Ini masemu maame person one yeka. Enti ye be picking the life. Lizzy say be for the life. Ye be picking the life wa. Enti me ba cho obi anya krado. Wenti anu a unya obabia. Suspended Chief Justice Maame Iraba Tukunu say on the Ghana for wasemka. Ebi say maame be resign and I'm say oh sir what be resign say some go investigations. Ebi say there be maame wasem a wo person o chire mu eti for now we cannot preempt yenimini chief suspended Chief Justice a person waka, and I'm adding suspended Chief Justice because you're acting Chief Justice irabafo eti Chief Justice akonya na de for now enkosi say committee beka se mami hu son eko. All right, I'm told to say ye mami asase enti ye work it out na ye picking it live na ye TV na ye din komo o fianom. Of course ye minority say omo approve ye bason atemuafo no ye nominate woman no, and it's so funny. I'm sure see a bit and home come, but I want us to pick the Chief Justice one. We are not a fee, ye decent common. Aye, Mahonya ha, na yam pick it. We pick every no what can ye pass it in your into ye say you bet me. I pick it because look, how you see minority in Parliament and Kasano. Minim says ye be a school from Omwa. And Ora Sam George Kasimbi. Was it they must take a year freshest orientation on your new MPs? No, they must take it serious. In your time, her judges are nominate here. Accept one our parliament, pussy one call Supreme Court. MPP, non justices. To say Justice Jewumpo, one no Supreme Court. Non-MPP judge to say Justice Jewu what no Supreme Court nan kan pesa hotifo we mo ayi ka jagum na yere tamri amade ade na so why slow san
commissioners and heads of independent constitutional bodies set up to protect the freedom and justice of Ghanaian citizens as guaranteed under the 1992 Constitution. In building Ghana's democracy in the Fourth Republic, the framers of the Constitution identified public officials who must directly serve the citizens of Ghana without being afraid. Without being afraid of unjustified punishment or reprisals from influential people or members of the executive or legislature. The framers of the Constitution identified that it is only when these public officials we can work without fear, control, or at the pleasure of influential people that freedom and justice will reign in Ghana. The law did not provide for the termination of their appointments by any authority. The Constitution set up grounds and processes for removing them from office under Article 146. And these grounds must reach the standard of, quote, inability to perform the functions of their office. The officials include, apart from Superior Court justices, commissioners of Traj, commissioners of NCCE, commissioners of the Auditor General, and the chairman and the vice chairman and members of the Public Service Commission. The third reason for this statement is that in order to address the troubling violations of the Constitution and illegality of the proceedings that have become obvious to me, that became obvious to me from the beginning of the process. I started an action in the Supreme Court. I applied for the proceedings of the committee set up by His Excellency the President to be held in public, so that in the interest of transparency and for the truth in the matters being raised to be made known to the people of Ghana. I did so because I knew that the secrecy of the proceedings for removing justices was not created in the Constitution as a cover-up for any agenda. The Constitution expects that only reasons for removing the Chief Justice and public officials as set out in Article 146 will be the reason for doing so. And especially, such reasons must affect public sensitive national interests or public order or safety. I realize that in my case, should the public be made aware of the allegations in the petition, they would realize that none of the allegations made border even remotely on matters of national interest or matters of public order or safety or anything that indicates that I'm unable to perform the functions of my office. An example is an allegation that I failed to retire accountable interest of $14,000 when I traveled. When I did retire that accountable interest 2 days after I returned from my journey, I was given $14,000. I could only spend $4,400, and I returned $9,600 2 days after I returned from Ghana, from my journey. And so I knew that it was necessary that the issues being thrown around as petitions against me needed to get into the public space. I swore to a supplementary affidavit alerting the Supreme Court also of human rights violations that I had started encountering when I went to the Article 146 hearings. However, the members of the Supreme Court that had the action for the hearing in open, and they also struck out the supplementary affidavit at the request of the Attorney General. I have decided to make this statement today because the violations have not stopped. Indeed, they have escalated beyond anything I could have imagined as possible in justice delivery. These violations include the committee's refusal, in breach of the rules of natural justice, to recognize my lawyer on the first day of proceedings, simply because I was not personally present with him. And they went ahead to make arrangements for the hearing without involving my lawyer while he was sitting in front of them. The committee has also failed to indicate the specific charges that I'm supposed to be defending myself against in order to allow me to adequately prepare a defense to the charges. The committee has gone on to permit two of the petitioners, Mr. Daniel Ofori and Shining Stars, not to testify at all or present what case they brought to them at the hearing. The committee has refused to allow me to go into the hearing with any family member. Before you enter, there's a thorough search of my body and my handbag in violation of protocols and courtesies extended to any Chief Justice, which protocols and courtesies are honored in the name of the nation, both in Ghana and outside of Ghana. And then the work of the committee is being conducted in a cordoned high security zone on Castle Drive, Osu, when all Article 146 proceedings since 1993 have been held in facilities of the Judicial Service. It is hard not to reach the conclusion that the choice of venue against the backdrop of secrecy of proceedings is intended to intimidate me and to prevent any citizen of Ghana from knowing how the proceedings are being conducted. The Edu Lodge facility that the hearings are being conducted in featured very prominently in the planning of the murder of judges on June 30th, 1981. And this can be read about in the special investigative report on that terrible event in our nation's history. It will be recalled that there was a Major Samakwa, a military officer who was killed with the 3 High Court justices, who was the Director of Human Resource of GIHOC. He was my uncle and my guardian when I entered the University of Ghana in September 1980. I was also living with him at the time he was abducted and murdered. Was Edu Lodge chosen for my inquiry to make me feel insecure? I think so. And I continue to hold the view that there's no reason why a judicial hearing is being conducted behind the high walls of Edu Lodge. At this Article 146 hearing, no rules provided by law to regulate the fairness of hearings and trials in this country are being followed. As we all know, when a citizen is summoned before a court or any administrative or disciplinary committee, it is the duty of the committee or court to give the citizen a copy of the complaint that they are presiding over. You cannot be summoned without a writ, a petition, or a complaint. It is also the duty of that committee or court or tribunal to give copies of all documents that have been filed with them before the hearing is started. How does anyone defend themselves without a copy of the complaint that they have been summoned to come and answer to? This Article 146 committee has refused to give me copies of the petitions that His Excellency the President gave to them. They refused to give me copies, a copy of the prima facie determination that His Excellency the President is supposed to have given to them. They claim that they know that the President sent me copies on 27th March of the petition on 27th March 2025. And so they do not need to show me what the President gave to them. They also claim to have copies of the responses that I gave to the President, but they will not provide the petitioners with copies of my responses. The difficulty with this is, because they are the independent body charged with the duty to conduct the hearing, what I have in my hand from the President could be different from what they have. And I cannot assume that the 2 copies are the same. Indeed, no tribunal does that. No tribunal will tell you that before you came here, we know that your landlord wrote to you, so we are looking into what your landlord wrote to you about, and so that is what we will be inquiring into. They will give you what the charges are that they are supposed to be inquiring into. Second, the petition itself has not been admitted into evidence and subjected to cross-examination by me or my lawyers. In this case, because they have permitted the petitioner who has so far given evidence of whose petition we are supposed to be dealing with, Mr. Daniel Ofori, they have permitted him not to testify and confirm on oath what his petition is. There is no petition on the table. There is no evidence given by him on oath. He has not authorized anyone to testify on his behalf. So what are we inquiring into? Even though there is no constitutional instrument passed to regulate the proceedings of an Article 146 committee, Ghana has a constitutional instrument regulating the work of all commissions or committees of inquiry. This is the Commissions of Inquiry Practice and Procedure Rules 2010, CI 65. And in Article 1467 of our Constitution, if a committee is set up for the removal of a Chief Justice, the committee is supposed to, quote-unquote, inquire into the petition, the answer, and the prima facie case. Therefore, we are dealing with a committee of inquiry. In spite of this, on 15th May, the committee decided, without listening to my lawyer, that it will conduct the hearing not as an inquiry, but as litigation. So they rejected the use of CI 65, which was created for the regulation of inquiries, and said they will use the High Court Civil Procedure Rules, CI 47. Then they decided that each petitioner can conduct his case as he sees fit. So they don't need to present the petition to them. Then they decided that the petitioners can call public officials to confirm what they themselves have not testified to. So, ladies and gentlemen, because the proceedings are being conducted as if it is a normal litigation between the petitioners and myself, their lawyers now choose and pick which parts of the evidence that public officials present to put on the table. This is also in violation of known rules regarding proceedings of a committee of inquiry, because a committee of inquiry must have its own lawyer. And when it starts the proceedings, the petitioner becomes no more than a witness for the committee to prove the allegations that led to the setting up of the committee of inquiry. So the public officials who have been summoned supposedly on subpoenas without the issue of subpoenas just come and swear oaths and present documents to the committee as exhibits. The witnesses themselves do not have the petition. They do not know the allegations in the petition, and so they cannot answer questions on the petition. And when they finish submitting their documents, my lawyers are called on to cross-examine them. Since 23rd May 2025, this strange process has been followed up, and witness after witness has been called, like Nebuchadnezzar's situation, in which he demanded that the magicians in his court should tell him his dream and also interpret it. My lawyers are left to guess which allegations in the petitions that I received on 27th March are supposed to be the subject matter of the testimonies that the witnesses have referred to. Anyone who has been to the Circuit Court or the High Court and made subject to the rules CI 47 will know that those rules never conceived that a hearing can be conducted without the claims, the defenses, and the issues being carefully laid out before the parties and accepted by all of them before a hearing starts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this total absence of compliance with all known rules of fair hearing that has caused my lawyers to file applications for judicial review in the High Court to declare all the proceedings void. Because the clear danger is that through this flagrant violation of CI 47 and the darkness of the current proceedings being held in camera behind the walls of Edu Lodge, my lawyers and I can come to the end of the proceedings. The evidence will show that every one of those allegations in the petitions that were given to me on 27th March is unfounded and untrue. And yet, the committee can dig up some allegation from whatever documents they claim to be having from the president, which they have not shown to me, and purport to enter a recommendation for my removal on that basis. Allow me to say that this is totally unknown in the rule of law in this country. If it was lawful, I would have no reason to alert the nation of the dangers they represent. It is the violations of law that have forced me to bring these matters out in the light of day. The final and fourth reason for this statement is that I have heard on several occasions from loved ones, persons who care, persons who may not know me beyond my public duties, and many who think that since these proceedings seem to be carefully staged to result in my removal as Chief Justice, it would be best if I just retired or resigned rather than subject myself to an ill-motivated process. I have also received threats and veiled threats to the effect that if I fail to resign or retire voluntarily, I will be made to suffer some harm or the other. I've also heard commentaries in the media about how this process was born out of a stated political agenda to remove me and control the judiciary, and that it is a political effort that can only result in an outcome that was decided long before it started. I thank everyone who has engaged in this conversation out of concern for my safety and well-being. Let me assure everybody that I am not seeking to cling to a title or a position. However, as a lawyer of 38 years standing, a judge of 21 years standing, and Chief Justice who has served the rule of law all my working life, in fact since I was 25, it is my onerous duty and obligation to speak up concerning anything that is extremely wrong with the administration of justice in this country. This is what I do every day. The situation I have been confronted with has shown me a model of injustice that I would never have thought possible if I had not been exposed to it. This is why, despite great personal discomfort, I have decided to marshal every effort in law and leadership to answer to the situation. Again, resigning or retiring while Article 146 proceedings are being conducted to remove a judge is not an option any judge or public official can even have. There is a decided case on the matter by the Supreme Court. The suit number is J6/02 2019. Again, no one has the authority to walk away from proceedings started by the state. Judgment can be entered against you because you fail to defend yourself. And a judge who resigns or retires would still lose all entitlements that they have worked for because they failed to defend the claims and resigned or retired while the proceedings were still going on. Therefore, if false claims are made against a judge or commissioner or other public office holder subject to Article 146 proceedings, just to achieve a political agenda, the solution cannot be to resign or voluntarily retire out of frustration, pressure, or fear. You would only subject yourself to two cruelties: a judgment based on false claims and loss of everything you have worked for. It may well be that the efforts being made are intended to frustrate me so that I resign, so that the architects of the scheme can go back into the media and say that the wild and unfounded allegations were not defended because they were true and I had no defense to them. As Chief Justice of the nation, who has been given the privilege and obligation to lead administration of justice, I should not turn tail and run when I know the implications of not defending false and unwarranted charges. If I resign under these circumstances, I will be saying that this flawed, unknown, and opaque process is acceptable. It is not. Finally, let me respectfully say that the current bizarre proceedings I have brought to your attention present a twist to our nation's democratic journey that we all ignore at our own cost. My humble view is that Ghana has come too far in the 33 years of the Fourth Republic not to be concerned about the unconstitutionalities that have been designed not to affect just me personally as Chief Justice, but all judges and public officers subject to removal processes of Article 146, if this one is successfully carried out without being questioned. Behind me is every judge in the country. Behind me is every commissioner or head of an independent constitutional body in the country. If this is successful, it will be tried on anyone. I am not countering these processes for myself, but on account of the leadership burden that I carry. If the nation is willing to accept these developments in its democratic journey, it must be understood that I sounded the warning and the nation took the decision to be passive about it. I cannot share the burden of those involved in designing and implementing this enterprise of pretending to use Article 146 proceedings to remove a Chief Justice through unknown and unlawful means, by keeping quiet about the violations of law and due process. Neither can I make anyone's burden lighter by resigning or retiring, instead of proving that not even one of these wild claims in a collection of petitions is even remotely true or meets the standard required for removing a judge. Now, allow me to take you a bit of your time to walk through these petitions. They have been in the public domain for some months now. They are actually available on the internet, so I'm not addressing anything that is not known in the public space. Many negative things have been said about me through public commentary on the petitions, although the petitions were responded to 7 days after I received them. And so anyone who cared to acknowledge my side of the story would have had no need to keep repeating the petitions without discussing them with the answers. And when I provided these answers, I also added with evidence to prove that each allegation was either a lie, a wrong opinion about how work is conducted in the judicial service, a wrong opinion on the work of judges, or a wrong opinion on the duties of a Chief Justice. I'll start with Mr. Daniel Ofori's petition. It is a petition with the most claims. Only 2 out of the several allegations he's making involve him personally as a court user. In one of those allegations, Mr. Daniel Ofori is urging that I should be removed as Chief Justice because I transferred a case in which he's a party from one judge in the High Court to another. That is a crime. What Mr. Ofori did not seem to know, which I stated in my answer to that allegation, is that the judge his case was transferred from had a family crisis and had to leave Ghana suddenly for an extended period. This is the only reason why cases she was handling, including Mr. Ofori's cases, were distributed to other judges to handle. In the second allegation, Mr. Ofori accuses me of transferring a case related to the first one so that to the new judge who took over his case, after a petition had been sent to me to have the 2 cases heard together. Any lawyer or registrar could have informed him that it is a policy written into the rules of court to have cases between the same parties involving the same issue to be heard by one judge, so that we don't have different decisions from 2 judges on the same matter. So there is no basis or truth to the allegation that I transferred his cases to a new judge because I had an interest in his cases. Indeed, in the year 2020, I wrote a dissenting opinion in one of Mr. Ofori's cases in the Supreme Court. He won that application because my dissenting opinion was a minority opinion of 3 judges. The other 4 judges supported his application. After this, his lawyers applied that I should not sit on his cases again because I had presided over a different case involving him in the High Court when I was in the High Court in, I think, 2010, which he had also lost. Since then, I have not sat on any matter involving the gentleman. But what is disturbing about the current Article 146 proceedings is the fact that the cases that he is complaining about in the High Court, the ones that were transferred to one judge, started from a judgment in the Supreme Court written by His Lordship Justice Kwaman in favor of Daniel Ofori. How can Justice Kwaman, who gave judgment in favor of Daniel Ofori as part of a panel of Supreme Court and whose opinion I dissented with, which has made me a target of Mr. Ofori's anger, preside over processes to remove me as Chief Justice because of complaints that Mr. Ofori has? I have already protested that there is a conflict of interest for Justice Kwaman to chair the committee trying me or hearing me on Daniel Ofori's petitions. What Mr. Ofori's allegations seem to suggest is that a court user can attack the Chief Justice and ask for the removal of the Chief Justice if the Chief Justice does not agree with his case while sitting as a judge, or if his preferred judge is unable to hear his case. And now the judge who supports his case gets to preside over the removal process. Apart from these 2 allegations, Mr. Ofori has no interest, no personal interest in all the other allegations he's making. And he should not have been allowed to conduct a litigation against me under the disguise of an Article 146 proceeding. In 2 allegations, he is complaining that I misappropriated public funds to buy a ticket for my husband and my daughter to travel with me. In answer to this, I handed over my letter of appointment to prove that in my conditions of appointment as Chief Justice, Ghana graciously gave me 2 vacations in a year. In the Judicial Service travel policy, since 2010, the Chief Justice can never travel alone for security reasons. And the Chief Justice is always allowed to travel with a spouse or another person of their choice. So traveling on my officially given vacations with my husband on one occasion and my daughter for the second vacation is part of the official conditions of my appointment as Chief Justice. I was also not responsible for buying the tickets in question, such that I could be said to have misappropriated the value of the tickets. Indeed, if the Judicial Service was not allowed to buy the tickets for my vacation, the remedy was for the Auditor General to surcharge me to refund the money. Anyone can check out the 2023 accounts of Judicial Service and know for themselves that there is no surcharge against me or anyone for the tickets that were purchased for my vacations. Ms. Ofori seems to be alleging that I should have traveled with my police escort alone on vacation and not a family member. And this is why he wants me removed from office. And I'm being tried or held behind the walls of a Jew lodge. Ladies and gentlemen, the question to be asked is, why would anyone demand that I go on vacation given to me as Chief Justice with my police security, instead of going with my husband or my daughter? And how can this be a reason for subjecting a Chief Justice to a committee of inquiry? In the petition I received, Mr. Ofori also complains that my family members should not have been given per diem when they traveled with me, and I have misappropriated the per diem they were given. But anyone reading the Judicial Service travel policy will find that it provides that when the Chief Justice travels with anyone, whether police escort, another judge, secretary, or a spouse, that person is given per diem. And the rate of per diem is not set or administered by me as Chief Justice. It is regulated and administered by the Finance Directorate and the Judicial Secretary. I've already told you about the retirement of the imprest. In an arm of government where there are almost 8,000 staff that I oversee, Mr. Daniel Ofori's petition contains allegation that I transferred one member of staff to work on a different schedule, and that is why I should be removed as Chief Justice. He also alleges that I have refused to reinstate 2 members of staff whose appointments were terminated around 2015, 10 years ago, when I was nowhere near being Chief Justice, and whose issues are still being heard in court. He goes on to allege that I should be removed for terminating the appointments of 2 staff members who went through disciplinary proceedings that were initiated by reports against them before I became Chief Justice. Though it is not clear to me why Mr. Ofori should demand that the Chief Justice should be removed for transferring a member of staff or be the final authority to sign any termination letter, I handed over to His Excellency the President records covering every administrative step on these matters, supported by the due process administered by the right officers. And yet, without issuing a prima facie determination, a warrant of suspension was signed, and now I'm defending myself where there is no petition on the table. Another allegation of Mr. Ofori is that I appointed the former Judicial Secretary as Judicial Secretary when she was a judge And so I have made her inefficient. Now, anybody who cares to know the records which I handed over to His Excellency the President was that she became Judicial Secretary in 2018. She became a judge in 2019. I was nowhere near being Chief Justice. I was appointed in June 2023. Ms. Ofori also alleges that I have appointed judges as registrars, and this has introduced inefficiency into the management of courts. Again, the records will show that the Judicial Council decided in May 2023, before I was appointed Chief Justice, that lower court judges should be appointed as registrars of the Supreme Court. So what I did was just to implement the Judicial Council's decisions. Then, Ms. Ofori alleges that a certain gentleman, not himself, but someone, who had a case in the Supreme Court in January 2024, met a different panel in May 2024, 5 months later. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. He also claims that I refused to fix an application in a case that did not involve him in Accra, which case was pending in Koforidua. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. He complains that I supervised the Judicial Secretary to administer a decision of the General Legal Council, which was taken before I became Chief Justice. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. If you read all my responses, you'll find that I provided all the records behind these decisions. Then he complains that I recommended judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. Now, anyone who knows how appointments are made with recommendations from the Ghana Bar Association, the Attorney General, and the Chief Justice will know that this last complaint only shows ignorance of a very long-standing tradition. It has been the settled practice for decades that in the recommendation of justices for the superior courts, it is the Chief Justice, the Ghana Bar Association, and the Attorney General who have the privilege of making recommendations for those who are to be nominated. The recommendations can be refused or accepted by the President. I encourage anyone to read the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Ghana Bar Association and others versus the Attorney General, 2015-2016, to Supreme Court of Ghana Law Reports 872, when this matter was even discussed, and other academic works that discuss this practice that has been around for decades. How has it suddenly become unconstitutional or wrong conduct or incompetence for the Chief Justice to recommend to the President to consider for nomination judges who, in her view, satisfy the constitutional standard of high moral integrity? Yet, despite all the evidence provided, there is a hearing being conducted at a Edu Lodge. I have taken this walk through Mr. Ofori's petition to show that the allegations have no bearing whatsoever on any sensitive national issues or public safety or order, or my inability to perform my functions as Chief Justice. They also do not have any basis in law or truth. They are just an attempt to gather a lot of complaints together, regardless of whether they are true or not, whether they are justified or not, just to have an excuse for the conduct of this inquiry that breaks all the rules of fair hearing. I'll be done soon, don't worry. There's also a petition from a gentleman called Mr. Ayamga Akogo. His complaint is that on 14th November 2024, after the Supreme Court had given a ruling which went against him, I, as presiding judge in the Supreme Court, ordered his arrest without any reason. He attached an exhibit to his petition, which was a media report from a group called the Law Platform. This media report says that after the Supreme Court panel had ruled against Mr. Akogo, he started to shout in the courtroom, and that is why he was taken out of the courtroom. Essentially, therefore, his own exhibits contradict his claims. Mr. Akogo goes on to claim that when he applied for a copy of the case proceedings, which were signed by all the judges that presided on his case, he did not see a record that he had been arrested. So I should be removed as Chief Justice. What is significant about this petition is that Justice Puaman sat with me as one of the judges who heard Mr. Akogo's case and was named as a witness that Mr. Akogo will call. But His Excellency the President has appointed him to chair and inquire into this petition, and he has accepted to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 1273 of the Constitution indemnifies any judge against any action or suit for any act or omission by him while exercising judicial power. This provision was just last week cited as a reason for declaring a petition against a Supreme Court nominee frivolous. And yet, I'm supposed to be defending myself on the petition of Mr. Akogo for work done in the Supreme Court with 4 other judges. The last petition is from a group called Shining Stars. Searches have shown that no such group is registered in Ghana. Yet, it has petitioned against me, and they claim that during the hearing of the case of Afenyo Markin versus Attorney General and the Speaker of Parliament, when I sat as a judge, I failed to hear the side of the Speaker of Parliament before the Supreme Court made an order, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. Again, I can only point to the fact that no judge sits alone in the Supreme Court, and the court's decisions are the decisions of all the judges who sit together. So you will see that every decision I took that is complained about by Mr. Ofori, Mr. Akogo, and the group calling itself Shining Stars was done as a part of a panel of at least 5 judges that made up the Supreme Court. And all judges in the panel are indemnified by Article 1273. How tenable, if I can respectfully ask, can it be that a petition to remove the Chief Justice from office can be entertained on these grounds? Every administrative decision is supported by my constitutional obligations, and I have shown with exhibits, or I showed to His Excellency the President with exhibits, that each decision that was listed was taken after the due process. And yet, a warrant of suspension was issued against me without giving reasons. Interestingly, there have been some recent suggestions about rules being made to safeguard judges from frivolous attempts to remove them from office. It sounds that means have been used to remove me. Conditions will be made safer for those who help with it, or those who may be afraid by the current occurrences. Despite the interesting new discussion of rules for removing judges, to experience the bitter harvest of what I am reporting. And if this nation descends into the kind of proceedings behind closed doors that break all the rules of adjudication or inquiry as we know them, after all the progress that we have made in the rule of law, we'll be safe from compromise created by fear, intimidation, threats, or a desire to please. A new standard would have been set where judges comply with what influential persons want or stand the risk of losing everything, including their career, that can accompany the process. Any petition would be enough to invoke the danger of being removed by proceedings that are not supported by law and which can be shrouded behind high security walls. As a judge, and now as Chief Justice, there is no one person in this country who can look at me in the eye and accuse me of taking a bribe to decide the case. This is the personal treasure of integrity that I live with. So what if these current proceedings are being carefully staged to result in my removal as Chief Justice, even if there's no lawful justification? All I have stated shows that any such action would have been done on the basis of lies and violations of law and due process. As a career judge who has served under 4 precedents, from High Court through Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, I could never have imagined such irregularities possible if I had not personally encountered them. I am also a mother, and I am a grandmother who must hope for better than this for our country, its rule of law and its democracy. On my part, I chose to respect His Excellency the President's warrant of suspension, even though it was clear to me that it was not supported by a prima facie determination that is required by the Constitution and decisions of the Supreme Court. I have chosen to honor the process set in place to hear the petitions, but I do not choose to hide from the nation that perversion of law, rules, and due process, as we all know, them are driving the proceedings, and this renders the proceedings unconstitutional. I choose to trust that such darkness will not totally engulf this nation. May God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Thank you very much.
Tokuno, Eden Komo Bono Abewe. I'm sure sir they will be opening up for certain questions, but you answer your feel so you answer your questions. Answer your questions. Answer baby sir. Menkai a telephone here for sir. Nepoku list also abe joining, but in just 2 minutes before Nepoku bebemuno, I just want to say sir, on my way we have to be serious. Chief Justice on Semi. Chief Justice on Semi. The difference in the creation of law. But when you're going to Semi. Ontimin popuna ni mame sunchre Ghana for ya traho. Ya chire school, ya friend appeal to pity. Uhunu ni eba. Mwasha dake kawe ni mesu. Anyi biya Ghana for ebisu biya buwa. Ubiye ni mnyansa sisi ya. Inti mame. Se na wadwen ye wo se wo be kan borofo asu a kire yen na Ghana fo abeka bia ma wa list over onye committee member otu Darko menya committee member. But you see, the story always favors the narrator. In Tipotoka say until the day the lions learn to tell their own side of the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. It is semi walking. And a committee no jumane Canada. And can you understand? I want to state here and now. Say Mami, or Mama who said she's always carried away by emotions. Wow, to baby. Asamwa young ye. Asamwa committee teso. What gave you the power? Sabra Bontain, me offer. I didn't want to have a mechanic from who can we say being a judge in your own, what offer cannot pay or they cannot penament to come also.
Nemo Judas in Cosa Sua.
engineer of a kind. Say me repeat the obwa. But meet my trust. Nene say you can't be a judge on your own case. What she did now, she's been a judge on her own case. As you actually the crampo for contempt, and I know I've had the committee. How can you preempt the committee? Say near Quadia, Osha, what for preemptive committee? No, me na me yanka. Yes, be the contempt of BB. Et me saying who say only a chief justice of the nation. We are suspended chief justice of the nation. You will active chief justice of the nation. Yeah, over a friend's Bonnie. Of house when you're doing
impersonation.
Impersonation.
Yes, she's not a chief justice.
But also she's the chief justice.
She's impersonating. It's a criminal offense to impersonate.
It's where we must charge her on criminality.
Yes.
We must charge her on criminality. Over Odie, me na me can be say. Yemfa brofu yo keni nyina nto nchen. Enu nto no fa wo ha. Ona bet ma cheche mu. No ma the cardinal sense of tokum. But yed ni nyina to nchen a. Article 146 no. Ehefa na Mahama, Council of States, and that committee na form. The Article 146 is clear. Some petition kosa when it involves a normal justice, the petition will come to you as a chief justice. Now I'm panel. When it involves a chief justice, committee no call, I can't say petition no call president who in consultation with the Council of States. Later a committee will be formed. Under provision 10 of that very article was it the president may, which is discretionary, suspend you, and in line with Article 146, we know who here some law school and common sense. Actually, the president has what the emrana yejuma. And over how can she say like ninkoba boni na yese you know preempting the position of the committee. Committee why na can obey you? Assembly eniye. It will confirm by your demeanor. Say indeed, what the bonny be? It will be you. It ye you wa Ghana for who say and same be saying to me ye war because committee will be anchor say ye be you. Be committee never support you and you be reinstated. It on hot grounds na mami to kuno. Ujini say be you. A dear na winning my enemy. Oh, in kutireti no nesu so adaya. Oh, akukutire.
Really, akukutire no worry.
Anyways, live on Accra100.5 FM. Mami joining Rama of an epochulist tool. Na umyebim. But what I can say, following your mami can say, me pesi ability to be a fundamental human right. So, anyways, but to say yes, today. Me secho. Na di tuasho who ebe you. Say we chief justice. Say they say like how. Now me answer me. Are you a more Ghanaian than me, Madam Chief Justice? What go men say we are? Please, do your small corner. My committee ni nyene juma me say before. You can cry blood. The law is the law. Ava, kejegu.
Mami emfa kwanya we so na menchia tifo na menchia ahwefo nso. Menchia ya dofo ni atamfo nyina. Na oheniba na utuda ko memo abaso nso ni dwumaso a wodi ebo a my Ghana.
Afa bebre nim se me oheniba o.
O ye oheniba.
Oh.
Na sebi enye se oheniba se wo papa ti ase enko.
Abi.
O ye ohene eba.
Kwa me wate.
Se o papa ye ohene a.
I have from a prince.
Onye ohin ketwa sebi. Onye dikru.
Dabi.
O ye man hene ti.
Yanko fa.
Ma me mo abaso nso ni adwumaso a wo ye.
Yeah, that's it.
Na otu lokwa nyame animu ni say I'm very happy the way Ghanaians decided to reason, at least if not for the first time in this very dispensation. Ghanaians have shown say they know between the two, power and law, and they have chosen to follow a partner. A bit timia boama ya reset your my way na nneɛma dadaa na atwa mu no me team biem na nneɛma dadaa na atwa mu no ebi ensi biem kɔpem sɛ research na owura mahama de asi n'ani so no ebe wie pɛyɛ ama Ghana yafa yɛn ntoma papa a sɛbio ɛyɛ kente ntoma no afira na I'm one person. I don't respect those who think they have power. No, I respect persons that abide by the laws of the land. Persons that abide by the dictates of the law. No, many omo ena sebi ekon nakrana. Obi a ofi say okura tumi bi the year adwuma no. If you have watched me carefully, most often than not, I make sure say obi a ofi say okura position bi, it is our position no man tumi bi mane the year adwuma bi no. I make them look like fools in my submissions because power has always resided in the hands of the people, and you may be one of the people, but it does not reside with you. Oh, sometimes people misconstrue authority to mean power. What do I say? Yes, there is power in authority, but authority is not power.
So you can have power, but you may not have authority.
Yes, and there are people who have authority. They must deny themselves having power because the power always resides with the people.
The people.
What do I say? And until omampeni sebi yeto abani wiye no. Na ko betimi aba bekas won na Ghana mampeni by default of the fact that he has won an election. What do I say? Okay. But he had to hold a sword and swear to the people of this country and pronounce, say, he would abide by the dictates of the constitution. And baby, I know Jinano, one say the Speaker of Parliament had convened Parliament and members of Parliament, and to the extent that they are our representatives, they were representing the masses, the 32 million population of this country, you know. They were there in our state. What I say? Because yen timi nka se Ghana fo nyina mu mehia na mo mampani enso afena mu no nso ankyerɛ mo. Even though we could use technology to do that, we still wanted people to represent us so that they will put their signatures to his swearing in, no, to make him now hold that, your friend is saying, sacred office, no, and hold that authority, no, and not the power.
Okay.
What do I say? Okay. So there be a catcher nipa say.
Over so there's a power and the way they no, you
don't have the power. Nobody has the power.
Maybe power and your authority.
We give you the authority.
Very well.
To act in our state. So, for example, law. Emma Obi Chi Kasano and Emma and Chiremuno Aye to say aye pet.
Okay.
Say me mal to me.
Yeah.
Say ya dear mammy. Into to me no. Authority any power you know.
You're friendly to me.
You're friendly to me into no. And ama for adwin you almost say
yeah.
To me ni authority no. But authority no say what they ba the verb a year a authorize. So it means say enya wo pe o obi na ma wo.
And now you bet make say power ne ya hoden.
Yes.
Ana the other one authority ni to me.
Okay.
And power ni to me.
Ana me na mintimi ntitwi kasa ni ye dia. Want me say power no because as a kasa no
it's not developed as
it's not as very well. So but I mean if you are very technical enti no amanfo adwene ye omo say ebi a omampani kura no okura tumi bi a ebro omanfo tumi so debi omampani ni mpo na ono no ye ekura the executive your friend is saying authority no in some instances no krampo no your friend power no
okay
due to how acquire say your CD to him say afi onu na mfam toto neoma no. But you see, so we are very technical, we are very technical. Nipa bi no mu a omo di tumi yeah eye authority yeah eye de omanfo de afem wo mo
yeah
omadwe ye omo say omo momu no ebetimi akyere omanfo sebre tio na omo we afi say sebre na all kyere mu amana kwa wie say wasese omanfo sebre no ono ni we afi say wo ka ho enu kyere mpanifo tabu baby say owe ofo nsa e ya hwewo de ni nsa num ehia sekan wonso wonsa num ehia sekan enti se wokọ na sese bi ukokum aboafo na owe ni namo a ni aka che se hwewo de. Now to the substantive case edayanim, who is talking in the first place ade a me observe ye ewo ne poster or the bar bonten say enawie obeye press conference no
any that to say
sa poster no by any stretch of imagination no she is impersonating say oye
Chief
Justice
enti mbachonia ye reka wase ye dia to or say Chief Justice Gertrude Tokunu speaks
onye Chief Justice Ghana nye Chief Justice no
onye Chief Justice
Debbie oh say we ye posini na ye ma interdiction say kotena fie wabra ye hwehwe wo nsemu a untimi nkwa bontin koka say we ye posini still wabra ye hwehwe wo nsemu
Debbie odo waka ni bi answer
ye wo ade bi abroni frɛ no adjective so by describing who you are no ebi abekitima ka say may ye suspended Chief Justice because that is what you are
because you wedi
you are not sacked
but you suspended.
Yes, you may be thinking say whatever wakeka medru ho
yeah
but idea was say so trimine say who you are as defined in the public space must be the reason why I was say oh yeah enti quickly
I am confused here when a year one no year now na year
we mean am year
and the enchire mu say we a list to because already no waka say one what trust say we Chief Justice we hwe we obeka say
na maybe
ti we there
we here me na epoku me hu say
meje ho fa
ma me no aye ade aye aniamo ho no
okay
na me tro to soro kakraka say
o correct no boa
ontimi ma me deceive public say
we Chief Justice
or your Chief Justice
okay
Chief Justice Gertrude Tokunu speaks on your Chief Justice where you suspended Chief Justice
yeah
where you suspended until she cannot be holding herself as though on a Chief Justice Wagana Hawabra you were an acting Chief Justice in a very high personality of Paul Justice Paul Bafuboni.
Into your Chief Justice.
The most competent. And Ghana, our Chief Justice are all acting.
Okay.
Onumpono, Onko about to throw his weight about to say, Onune Chief Justice. Tio, were you so a very descriptive word all through? We have documents as they say, Ukoko Taye de Biba Beninana. What Tremu say, me acting Chief Justice. And it's an so pa kobetime deceive public say just because omanpani man to me say onyina Ghana for nyina name as Chief Justice nimpo wabra or acting no kobetime aka say me Chief Justice
yeah betime aka say Chief Justice
legally so and kobetime a defend say after all me ye adwuma no as Chief Justice as me ga say Chief Justice as like
yeah but yes yeah
and untina oya ni atro age acting
yeah
okay. Now who na ye ya to asen no te se obi okọ Pentecost ya born asen ayi de ni de wo say baso
so no wanu fu
oh no she is misbehaving in public
afana na ni oye
de oye to total misbehavior.
Misdemeanor.
It's a highly intolerable behavior. And that can even account for her sack.
The
behavior she has put out today is a total misbehavior that must be punished. It's punishable by law. Because one, everything that is governed around her removal or otherwise, and you're governed by the laws of the land. The law is superior to any individual. That is why I began my description of power and law, where power is being misconstrued with another adjective of authority. What must I say? Now, that said, to the substantive and Samuel Walker.
Before you go to substantive, let's recognize yes. Solomon.
Senior.
Akwaba.
Senior Kwane ni tree. The more do. What you say there? Accra100.
And
the senior in church him.
Talk already as a buddy on a match I do about
to the very substantive. A dear Sam Naba. Menua. Ewiase. The bia unamwa. Ubia wutie me. So ye penny so ya kwala. Se sebi. Unim nyansa na sebi wadwiri mu ha. Ubia wutie me bia. E wo so de hye utiri mu se. Entatia ne kum so no. Ntatia.
Ene kum so.
Ne ba. Me kura me nka wono amu ne ba. Ene kum so no. Na obia wakan wo so no ne ntatia story a sebi o ye de aye literature manfo de aye poetry ne nyoma no. Enya de kese ne kum ade kese. Na nka sebi o ewiase. Yase dadie bi twa dadie m. Wo saw blade da. Hacksaw blade.
Yes.
When we say hacksaw blade, no, and then the name of for the aba a electronic.
The back on the
Fadadano. Oh, and no, any iron rods, the hainesso.
Say hacksaw, no, so. By your rods,
hacksaw, no, iron rods, no, what shall the Cassia say? Now we shall hacksaw blade, no, ne Cassia, I no.
Of all kind of tetanana.
There be hacksaw blade na no na ye di twa no. Anona saw no side no. Any iron rods. O the iron rods no crampo ketu ewo mu no. Any hacksaw blade no ano no. There na
iron rod no so.
And so when we say iron rods be atwa hacksaw blade mu da.
There be.
Nyansa na ye di tire wi so. Enye Jimmy. Oh, me ka Jimmy, I try to let people know, say, don't think yourself a butterfly when you are a bird, when you are a butterfly. What do I say? Manyan sani nye juma abribia.
Yes, a body ne bebre.
Body ne bre. Say, mami we ojina we to say body na bre pa because nyan sani nye juma.
Emotions.
Oh, emra ne yeka. Osunu na ono no na adwene ye ne se oye no. Ya de emra na eye adwuma yo. Emra na eye entatia no.
So no so acheche ne emra mu.
Emra na o chechire mu no. Like you said, yes, a superior argument that forms the basis say one kasa wuntimi nye otemuafo wa one kasa wa asemu mu. Because seba se one kasa wu bu wa wasem ho aten a wo mfamra no nya adwuma
de atenka
wo de wo watenka ana afei wo de abegina mra na mu de wo ka bien wa wo mra mu because who appeal to the sympathies of the general public na ye sympathy a ye wo ma wo ewu ye no fie pete pi
achepa
esa say abda wo be chief justice na ye hu say wo famra nya adwuma. And as useless as that, we didn't want to give you any listening ear. Who converting? Me better studio ha. And I me be too for. Now me catch you say, I could follow only certificates. Oh, your lawyer ni fine. Means me in case on your lawyer ni. na Emma wo kwan Emma
or your lawyer need as well certificate.
There be only certificate pacho. Your lawyer for omuko here understudy. E wa lawyer for fufuro bi ho. Ono ni papa was certificate but oni bi.
Oh, intention.
Emeyen ko bi, emeyen ko oni bi. Now, Ghana Bar Association pe and be legalize and I be license obi to say Kufuado Ghana. They say Kofi Asante be there too. Ubusa say oko university the first degree or onyan we oni bi. Enso a lawyer ni we. Oni bi o enya say me kadi agro oni bi he has no first degree only undergrad certificate biada but a lawyer. It's only Ghana Bar Association, that useless association that have always made it look in the eyes of the public, you know. And they bet me alliances will be way. So
Ghana Bar Association useless.
It's a very useless association. Now, me too on the phone. I didn't know, sir. Already know her mind was made up. Sir, or no, or babe yet the bidding of the elephant. Na onim say entatia ne kumuso no on say charges here ya kan ho asemi nyina no enka entatia ma
okay normal
eyade a
so do obi
ade na waye odi ukura tu kwan we kanya asem bia o but a sense we so ban boni ne woni ye boni a uda na die e wo Ghana abra nka wo ye e ka kitwa bi nka mami we ya ma wo ye na ba o man we mu
ade na ye
hwede odi ye speaker no asa kwotno say your friend is saying your vacuum be your kind of saying cry
a constitutional crisis
sorry obi a ono no obi a ono no ni certificate a ono wansua mra no wo na papa no maame wo papa no o kofodua se tech boni a okodi ya ye pam oni free school mu ho because of wo
papa
tokonu
boni be no kodi
your friend Abraham Saki
okodi boni krono ben
oh openi na me mpese me
da bi openi aya on so ntimi nso nka ne se nya ne ho
oh mi nya ne ho sa
da bi ntimi ka se ne papa ko krono
enya wono nkwa na ye ne ba
da bi
enya wono nkwa na ye ne ba
so be ka se obo krono wi no enya won ntimi ka so ko krono
kwa da bi enya okowi a school ni oma enya pam no
ne papa
ono ne papa Abraham Saki
ebi atesem
oh atesem bia so no
bia atesem
bibi wo ho se nya nipa ntimi mo ni sire mu nka asema me kan se busuan na me se omo se me boa omo fa me nko court
court unsuru court to mo
dia yo unim adwuma unsuru broni o no da bi me timi ka wo ase no aka tro se court masa ma me tira kwan ne se court no wahu enti mami o papa no ni di na matro wa no he Abraham Kofi Saki on tina e friend Saba
yeah
ni papa din de Abraham Kofi Saki
to no your ba no de Saba
nse matro wa
yani din be ye
ti tokonu no ye ni kunu
no ka tokonu asem ni papa
be ni papa no make sense o papa wu nti wakwa bokro no am ya pam na free school ama
what is not proven
fine what they say platform media
yeah
eso what ha we be fro because papa no your headmaster no nya moa na wo your headmaster over them it is school for no and e bo manie school for no your headmaster over them no
and every fro
and omo no e bo amanie so omo bo a me so me ye den me bo
anyway
enti no so papa timi ya tutini mo rem abomu kro no nyina me yi na di ya hwe wo school na ma betra studio high too for say jai se wo ma wo ho kwan ya ma political party bia ne candy for wo no woni certificate school ya wo ko bi wa ko bi enti jai e ma wo ho kwan e ma ne yusu wa bra ne ho asem sabi asem a e koso yi e ya asem bi ho ya wo now e di asem no wo ka Abrantie Daniel Ofori asem ya odi ye petition wa waje atum se wodi oman sika etwa ticket ma ukunu ene wo ba ana wo ka tira Ghana fo se ewo wo krata ye de ma wo se fa bedi dwuma ma o man no mu se wo betimi anya 2 vacations krata na ye troma wo no ene o man ne mra no de na mu odu ni pa na adwini awuo no se Akufo-Addo atro krata ma wo Akufo-Addo wo so temra Akufo-Addo ye ameke wono wo ye obi a wabon a one call law school nti no nimu mra but oye lawyer ni mintimi nyim free ni sem so onye lawyer ni and what your krata ma say wo betimi akọ 2 legal vacations na so 2 legal vacations no so what throw wo mumpo say
in a year, right?
In a year no wo betimi akra de o man sika akọ gro medam asia and na wo ye judge ni na wo ko school na wo maame ne wo papa boni a wo papa di ye kra po ye na die no won tra wo na won nwe wo ho awisi aba dwen wo ho say untimi mfa o health insurance enkonko ye registration enkoto aba because o man ne mra ne so chen de parliament mpo a ono se mra no aka se ye betimi de o health insurance akwa ye registration parliament na yes amra no
You even use birth certificate.
Me wie na ma birth certificate wo
Very well.
Sabre no na Charlotte say ena ye electoral commissioner obe inheriting mra bi a afarijan na de call mra se bedwam ma mra no ye gi tu mu se wo man se wo betimi de health insurance card akọ register esa se health insurance card ne so no ya tro se we citizen na se we resident ya tro wo so anya Ghana fo nkwa na health insurance omo amunya Ghana fo a omo no sabio wa mabetena omamu as residents obi anu wo tu kwan ofi se me ye transit to Ghana ha ana se bi kro ye tourist obetima ye health insurance ni bi because health insurance no ya anya ma Ghana fo nko akeke ye ma obi a because ye health insurance levy a ono so to nsu a otua levy ni bi okodi di restaurant a otua bi oto bibia VAT no NHIL e wo so national health insurance levy e wo so entini ya anya ma obi a se bi oye Ghana ni nko a ye ma obi a oye non resident but not citizen ana you say on the face of health insurance card no ubetimi di akọ registration se uduru ho na ya tro so say onye Ghanaian na emum uye resident Ghanaian na je se onye citizen enti ye ntimi register meboa enti afarijan mu hu sade ni nyina sade ni kodu Supreme Court no omo se ye mongu na ye expansion omo a omo di national health insurance card e register ye free register ni ansa na Akufo-Addo be man pani 2016 asem na making okay sabre no na the discussion was that who is a citizen and the course trajectory ye kwa ko busa say o birth certificate betimi ama wa ye citizen ana and also so tokonu we ya ni papa aboka with school fees sa tokonu we o say o birth certificate entimi ndedi say we a citizen
A work decision.
that's how nipa we your chief justice and then the chese me list to me ko gina ba bi nka so chief injustice I was a maker because there's nothing justicial about the decisions.
And offer yet the same birth certificate near the copy passport.
What they compare passport?
No, the
other beggar. Wait, I didn't wait the
national ID card.
I didn't wait that Osno ebeti.
Ghana card, the passport. The
better than Osno ba madam.
As we two about assuming again.
A better than Osno mami or madam.
I mean how?
Enti o tie ne commentary na no running in nyina I can only see one word.
And any day.
Frustration.
I mean I frustrated.
Or you're frustrated. Adwene ni nye
but when the democrat na said
utim say adwene no ohia oyarehwefo because me share the way our kasane crowd say Parkinson disease ne eyi de ho
agye can yi cause we are psychologically indisposed
and no your friend is schizophrenia
and no there
schizo
doctor be improve
e de ne ho agim that be the way all kono say when nya obi obehwe na adwene mu aboa no a why we are my betima boda.
Open so just on taking mental health serious.
Very seriously. Very, very seriously.
Okay.
Because she has not made sense. And I mean, I'm not the type that listens to persons that are not serious in life. But I had to listen to her because I felt, say, maybe she would have a point. Not a scintilla. As the bottom line is, I say,
on what judge you? Ofa case ni ba kwa no judge.
How? Any committee no enquire ni mu e.
Why committee na adwuma ma simple.
Enquire committee na nim. Flout it.
Ofa say we disrespect the committee no.
No, she should flout it, and that is why I just want to give a proposal. You see, beyond the petitions that have been heeded to by the president through the Council of State back to the committee, as I just said, me no minyame petition, but I want as many Ghanaians as we can to further move with another petition. Yes, because her misbehavior today,
even today,
she say omumra. Ade was say holding in camera.
She's in contempt with the committee.
Ade bia e fa say ye chief justice die no ho no. Eni kwan say process no e beda badwam. Okon ho court say process na ye de yi na die no. Opese ye mfa camera. Na media phone nyina entwa
no be a petition.
And a court rule ye by a 4-1 decision or 4-1 decision say sa sem na wo ka no senka wo yo bi a wonimu mra ko fa ma court ho
court ankasa
sa na court kan me ba to what kind decision
no but say phrase no say court case wo bi a
e ba jo me no me interpret court no
no that kind me asema na kan no when you are quoting
me say court no interpret say
ususu say say no me interpretation
na say ya boagu no court no ehwe asem ni bogu say obi a wo ye chief justice for outgoing or suspended. I think the best adjective is suspended.
For now, suspended.
Me the say or outgoing. Looking at her behavior, misbehavior, no. She's going.
And the behavior, no.
The subai on. Maybe I make a subai. It is a insane. Untimi fancy. Uchu mutaya ebepi. The subai ya no the dad na dia ye board your mama dia on say no she portrait and share your mama. I was saying ka wo obi te say your mama wo fia. Then ka isaba. En ka wuni. Akufo ya mudi na chi wabon. Oh the Akufo ya ma wa sisi wani megu ase poto.
Ono so to wi ndi otifie.
O wi ni dia wono otifie. We say statement your kan yi. Metima chiro ba bi efiri.
When na chiro e.
We. Me ma adwene mu susu say e be ga bia sa o cheda ko. Obi a wa bon law, what tran law class. How many times no throw the exams? And no kra no pass impo and no say nya hwe the way I and ya say na nim agu ase dodo. We dem man pass bi no nko. E no mo pass e no. The way I walk in can you man. Me ma adwene mu o. Anya obi adwene am de ka so. Me nsusu ye mu no. Me hu ni say statement dey o twe yi. O kan yi. E Gabi. Sa anya Gabi a nipa ono na adwene mu o ha pa te say Gabi. E ya afenyo.
Minority leader.
Yes. The minute micro minority leader.
It's unfair to make that statement. Say.
Oh, now dream more. I've told you, say MPP lawyer be any onim law. MPP lawyers only understand knowing the judge to mean knowing the law. Because when him judge, I don't go bribe. No what the judgment. They want shortcuts. They don't know the law. They don't know anything about the law. Share idea ba kwa ma mini raise ya. Ebe mo hu se ma na adwene mu hapa ba ko ne say o se second petitioner no ono kre friend say akurugu o se ho anwan
so akolgu
posi ni no
because akolgu
tio o se akurugu no ye ma judgment wie ye no tio ye ma judgment wie no ono akurugu ne kasa hwe say judge ma judgment bia obetimi kura ka chen so ekwasea different from say onya ma judgment. There's nothing contempt about say judge amana judgment wie
so we wie
na wo tira wa adwen won judgment
and we wie
ana ni behavior
yeah we
wie no opekura betimi aka say judge ye kwasea yes say judge no or ye public officer obekwa ko report to police say what did not attempt na ye de wa fa samra kwan ne so enye wono e no ba be judge in her own court
I don't know see Latin your friend say
your friend no Nemo Judas in Cosa Sua
abo
of answer your friend say
Nemo Judas in Cosa Sua
adia Judas Iscariot to me
untimi nya judge wo wa sem adi enti na ka sa
Solomon wusu
adi a edi akire ne se wo be ye judge wo wa sem mu a wo bebu ntantia
aba
ebi ana wa mi ye yo
yeah no
you say I will can press conference
no ka say
question say grandpa journalist be busa akra o say my journalist be musa question
oni answer
adwene ni mu ha body ne be bre
oni answer
ekuru bi wo kra ni kwa say nka ma ne ba wa bra bu we be ma papa na de na chi a obetu no fo say isaba dia base mesel de
twado
na tutro mienu mani han
twado
be ma nya sani o
me kura nka me boro west na maka isaba papa with the list to your attack was the time is the mighty judge ti twado ai
ti you know we kura obetima catch out there one day you wezi but go with your gratuities and everything.
They could have done that.
Just so that at least you are pacified by the fact that ebi American crown and you go say we there who sabe chief justice organ ha bia mu a o man no kra bo
you see I don't mean chief justice bia
and you go say we na me say I committee ni tena se kra say onye chief justice am
be ya kra the committee
na me na kame me first person kame ye there twari there na o ye ni swa kame kwa bu a judge dani nyina bu wait hungry lioness and I say can this also ma say mu anu apeja the case versus we scanner wedding wire there pa
because they say and what trying to be ultimate fan
when we answer say we do o man sika sabe ko be a hungry lioness enti no in summary no
that's olumrem
she has not made sense. She's been very emotional and yemfa emotion in color. And to quote her own words, she can make all the noises she wants to make. I just heard her make noise. It's just noise. All I heard was noise. Che. There was nothing, not even a scintilla on iota, a molecule of wisdom or sense. And what make it? And you know, let's treat it with the most contempt. Contempt.
Pinch of salt.
But if you don't want to treat it with the contempt it deserves, then if you want to be serious as a country, you should hold her answerable and accountable. For one, impersonating as the Chief Justice. 2, being a judge in her own case. 3, spewing falsehood. 4, interpreting issues in her favor, and all put together for showing an intolerable behavior
live
as a suspended Chief Justice
on Accra100 FM Citizen Show.
You mentioned something about the argumentum ad mesir. You see, because I know you know. Augmentum ad misericordiam.
Oh no, so no way.
And no, ye, the na wo kase. You see, the MC lawyer, ye baby you.
Ghana ba for you so na no mo dey.
Ose there appeal to pity.
Appeal to pity, yeah.
Did you say that?
I said appeal. What was she did is appeal to pity.
Appeal to pity.
Oh, here public.
Now what then now lawyer
sympathy.
I don't know who your lawyer na be a lawyer.
Lawyer ancestor remember far from at the fee.
One feel it.
Also, I'm 50% discount.
It one feel it. Is it because you don't want to?
It be taking me time for now. Me say me other things be answer.
Me who say mumu bi no o say ayire mo na ma musua de because adwini we ya da utirimu ya no onye lawyer ni a na bi ye lawyer oh mo na mo bo man you because adwini we da utirimu a na wan fa nko school na onye lawyer ni na be a lawyer.
Lord de be.
Gary ni ma ko ye lawyer. Wo de wa hwehwe bobo list no. Samia wuku ye lawyer.
Ye be law.
Oh, ti mesrem. Oh, mo fa me say no. Me call law school on be fail me.
Say senti.
Oh, say Adadwa emperifo say Adadwa esi di ohun no. Oh, because nipa registrar o no
law school
on Ghana law school no. Ono me kwa ono the first person me accuse you say aden na we qualified to be here because wabon
you no be pass no.
Or arguments na be reason. Oh.
Over. My first message about change. Accra FM 100.5.
So let's say everyone pa.
So
because we share adwene that solo team. Anyhow analytical solo is.
Local matches.
Oh. Everyone was say senior solo onye lawyer. Na Gary ni mako ye lawyer.
Almost like comeback.
Obia Otimika say where did you come from to go to college? Onye lawyer ni.
Where did you
come from to go to college?
I am no phone.
You say, my Lord, what did you say? Where did you come from to go to college? One mini Rofono.
That's it. Basolom room.
What?
Nano to Mechia were T4. Mechia senior so. Nano ya Julian Newcomo. Yes, akoye yi eno chiro mechiano me fa na yo baby o pound keche clothing
won chia eno chiro say
o
won sa me hunto
o pama dia papa
won chia ne say na eno chiro wo
so ni se minua no
o pama dia
unia
o minua pa
eno chiro
so good what a culture e bi na so mi
o say me wo
when I was a catcher clothing.
Catcher clothing.
Catcher.
Also, my cowdino.
Catcher clothing.
Yami in no means me preference.
Me, Mamma, Georgia.
Oh, the dress here, you.
Oh, Hotel de Georgia.
Oh, I mean, no.
Me papa kusi awaka baby. DC. Me papa prekope. Etimi nuane Georgia. Ne mani nyina na me ma me Georgia
nti eno kire obra atade ni bi
eya me listowell
na no poku
eya me listowell ana say me private
mama kai jo mama
oh but they are very good
they are very good
ti eno kire me ba cho ya ma onkra
they are very
yes
excellent
nana no crowd
say green woman over in this
Debbie your party
na say this crowd the mona machenka
your party transformation plan
I don't know why yellow
also it me turn
we are greening you
because we know only say over aka white na NDC NDC that be black
unsa ye green no and say
deep was in there representative
it's onya white or NDC ni
o ya manfo
no to me
senior
me ba no na me tie ma me na me nya ma dwese me tie no but obi na chenchena also chief justice suspended chief justice kasa or kasa yentie bi but we tie na mere hoye ema Ghana I think say Ora Mahama also started cracking whip no or say ni brebem esa answer ma me no odi nsem hu too much kokonsa no ya doso
odi kokonsa
we ye nsem hu eye kokonsa ye do akọ committee no ohwe article 1469 bana bibia besi bia right from say obedi petition ko ekopem mra obehia committee be ka asem ni asem ni nyina ye secret in camera to hwa man penegi e no de bre wo chief justice onya famre wa kwa ana wu chief justice kuro ya ulikima Vincent de Kwasefo so kai ana no asema eko ba bia e man achekro no akoma an ho ache gidi oso kokot wo asem yimfa ho yem petition wo wose chenchira maame ni nya copy say ye ohun ye no na chese nkomo bia koso between chief justice and Vincent Kwasefo all konso gabude munsisa monsa no kakra munsisa muwe ano kofa attorney general ono de connection man de bia oye connection phone so say yemfa ni pantum ana mode ko ya court no e ka say in fact nuru kwa say court no be ka say no ana o man peni ka say no mama me de yi no copy na mama me no nti no asem na o court no kwa na ke hunya but o mo ka wie ne butu wi ama man peni kra ma no instead of 7 days or man 10 days but na me no man peni nya adwene 7 and 7 you need to so baby you know say command 7 efiri ho ana mami ya sa ko hye nkofo bi echi bia me nua kwabra bon fede ne nkofo yi o mu free higidi da no m kokot se send dio poso sensizo chese ekuru kra o kanidia enye yi wa mo so se chenchira ansem na akoso no eye unconstitutional ni ade ana supreme court shiai no mbotugu ya tina chese ya wai kro nanim ke kro nanim da ona chese oba yi ma toko no ya hwehwe ya yeyi eno nti no no se oba yi ma na simuba no akọ court ode na sem kotu dwa se de ekoso no nyina ya unconstitutional yen declare processes ni nyina se nye yen twem na onkoso ankonkodi ne hema de o hema ti wo hwe ni muso obedi hema ana wonu anu a waye chief justice a won lead the judiciary a won se watenetene no okotena anafo the colleagues anim ana the colleague ka se sema ade bai eye sebi ehuru harada enkwase asem ti omunyina eyi maame firo maame ne sa de no wantumi an grant interview bi akora odi areho eye fast kotena kemu a oyi firim ba kasa de ne nyem no me asem we sha the first futu a me de ma eraba tokonu and the shana went these hot-headed young men a woman yo yedum no mpo nim gwase esa se baby ade ne nam no e be faw se sushan eje be ya resign and negotiate your exit. Go and negotiate your exit. Between some amifu on countless occasions on various platforms. Obviously, damn. Yeah, go for damn club because I've heard people say that is true. I just say, oh, bro, for 10 time you. I'm saying no problem. Muli mama ye wenchi slangs. You ever found that? Oh my wenchi slangs. Ana abrewa yip mu kwa na chese e wo se okoshia the committee na de arehwo ne say the chief justice of the land, the battle chief justice of the land Erabato Konu maya tiasia say abra no leading judiciary no a judge for no wantumi antene wo muye eno ntino ono ankasa ene okwa koshia committee a yes court poaman ene esiedu teso a oye omoye ni colleagues e Supreme Court na ene de sankofo ni nyini papa. That is serious, that is dangerous, that must not be countenanced. The first day I woke up committee anymore, the second day was a Kenya na phone you where you could record na kaba no be video editing and come record this man body search here because and you cut that was na yeah me ko oyi other lawyers yan kwala grobi oni edi other lawyers re kwa no mo phone su kuta omo media me lawyer dey awuram yesi da bi asema wo keyi nyina yeni ho unkwa wo de bia one sided story being provided by Tokono
committee so ya do omo nkasai
they are matured, they are so matured, they are behaving within the confines of the law, and that is what is expected of them.
She wants to lead them.
Mama me nyaya after we omo kan biye.
No, she wants to.
Obeso mo ase obi abodan fo awafa ewu gba ba fa ontuma ubeja akoko ni
ojiji wa konsohwe
ope dio pa no ope se struggle I say hey
na done politics na say
politics MPP NDC nobody is going to do that. You be man law imrana fanu kwem
because the law is the law.
The law is the law. Mami committee adwuma ko so na se kura se ye nte ho maache da be no na ate committee asem ye nyina atie bi nim so obi a ye na adwuma anu ya na hu se flyers ye nuanom MPP before share some talk on no speaks and I'm say hey
women organizer bekasa
talk on no speaks MPP before mo na mo share
so a woman organizer
why is that a woman title and say woman mo dia tu say ambassador oba tokonu every ba tokonu wa dan MPP ni and the talk on no speaks MPP before kwa na share I'm say what talk on no speaks ye nyina betie bi na me ba na me tie ni nkro na ho say a total waste of airtime minim so tia
MPP phone tia man
o metia say
yeah so yeah fabi
more than the free
original source
some of feed
yeah for feed but original source
we cover mu nyina we tia make ni na mamu o gwa ma di ni mo ja toko no atua mamu ni nyina
ti me so maje be sha na maje be se
eraba toko no say assembly a waka akra me yem sheme ne say o say your convention normal practice yi judges to the Supreme Court chief justice no on attorney general no Ghana Bar Association de shia no moyiko ai me tifri na no am say agbena say o man ntina enkoso wono constitutional provision and article 1442 na kachire alasa kachire ye kwanya ye justice of the Supreme Court say woni judicial council be shia no I be a Ghana Bar Association attorney general I know judicial council on that's a we cry enough grounds
on team raso ya na
ma me no say na bafu bond better experience man ya fan akwa yi foforo so chief justice
ade a constitution say in camera or say there be give me waiver
what dey be up waiver
what's the constitution no
also say the law is the law to akaza na mo no ma me e dey na ekoso yi hwe up to date obi enu abotumi pinpoint emre bia o mampani abuso neither so obi atumi pinpoint say committee no obu mre bia so
council of state
our council of state na say ofiri say obi abu in fact wa court ba ko say obi a ambushi wa na ko e dey na esi ukwan say maame obesa court hwede wa ba be say anyu awie wa should age airtime abedi ntro akese Mr. Ofori, people don't know. He's among the wealthiest people in this country. What try what kind of someone? Obia nipa do say the host kasi Mr. Ofori Okroma. What kind of say the Tanzania bi? Obia all the major banks in this country or your shareholder or SIC mu or your shareholder all the big entities who can once a master say be onim the left from right. And dear Mr. Ofori no Ewiasintia obenya nwadaje Mr. Ofori raising 21 issues of misbehavior
atentre ne penope justice
21 issues and 4 issues of incompetence wosi ye ntungwesa say wo de oye esaba eraba tokono mo ajaje fo na mo tuto mo visa mo na efe ye ne so beti ahoma mo
no fire
ye ba ho na ma kama gina tre utum se dad ya wo okay adene ni mu ha no o ka de opetro but you take it ye fansa esa se mra na se ye ye ma megina monim na wo de ye subject to the same mra ni mu a wa be gina no wa o ka ma na ye se anam gan na se gan mra ni nye de na wo na wa ye
na so bi aje mre
no
but judge bi
so ade amami ye you know what it
so serious
it was some kwakwa so to me bi
no be press no be press
ye wie yo
say ye ni ma asema ko
assembly live
ma be press
assembly no
anyway contemptuous
ugusu qualify by now say national security in or say somebody must go and file the attorney general or the committee must take the steps or me file contempt application near farmer me
this is a whole misdemeanor misbehavior
wasana boapa obeso lead you to the path of destruction but I can tell her say look the word on the street yeah the oil who be the year been home what to me atena wiase wo na stress say why adwuma o judicial for 38 years and to me the one day be catch say birth certificate and just say we Ghana ni that day na me lose interest me call law school
until when free
that day free now so to me call you atena bench for 38 years I lawyer 38 years there. Now so what me aka or help me no me say birth certificate and yeah improve citizenship o ko school na kwede. Why we had better uma.
So loving in Yadri. You
can't
go school about better the
wrong. Your Chief Justice is telling you, it's a birth certificate, you know. And just
Onumpa for 38 years. That's all over for one day.
Yeah, Musala said, or go and passport, and you're on the
birth certificate. And you know, now some of the year, just a minute getting.
Wow.
Yet is a wall. No, too.
But that hasn't been reversed.
It has not been reversed.
I think we must reverse that. I think it must be.
What you say?
Sir Judge, Mpacho, educate me on this. Sir Judge, MBK set ruling now. It becomes law.
Yes.
We are then reversing.
Also, conditional review.
It must be reviewed. It must be reviewed. Ava, but so my son person make judicial review.
Was saying the bit me also. But say you know, you're new Chief Justice.
Acting Chief Justice.
Yes, you're new Chief Justice or acting. You know, you better share choir, you better fast. I mean, there have been so many wrongs in the last 8 years. I was here corrected.
30 seconds now.
Oh no, on your intervention.
Into mess say,
no, but this very one I want to take it up.
Then
birth certificate, you know, SSS.
I was say good governance. Your secretary net way. Into I was say
you take it up. You take it up.
Send your sponsor citizens.
Na. Yani akrabet you could have got them mamia ye. Enchima fan chair. Don't make us say abrasuna. Sebi nyanza phone kuma.
So you beka wasem. But
your friend is saying private member bill be a parliament who judges the judge.
Very important.
Who judges the judge?
Yeah.
There should be some committee somewhere.
Yes. The General Legal Council does not really help because the judges are there being judges in their own courts or cases.
And who judges those who judge the judge?
Yeah.
Titoko no die na me die me yan say ene o kasa o di ntroto committee members so ana me di mani to members nanim Poaman Esiedu Domlevo ene sojani ba ene your friend say Professor Gisa na say e die bone pa na omo di aye wonti a wakwa ko gina bonti a wodi omo kokonsa ti wo de omo wa emba nipa mu mekasa no wo de on fa se futuo de bintu ho
agunu when mas
wa gunu when mas ne papa in fact and the sympathy bi a wo bia no ekọ
asai
wa sai no na me na mfiso ka wa nyina wi a
omeka se ma resign
but ho na me hu se enkwada na tu na efutuo bone o kan sem bi that is the government of the issue o say enkofo say ade na me resign but there is a judicial ruling there is a judgment and that's a ruling now just say nya start process be say unya a resigner obe lose entitlement na ni sika kra so that is where the issue is
entitlement
afin na nia ba no say hey kapre abra die starting no film sa time no ana ni enum bi e2 fo say obey
negotiate your exit
yeah ni omampani ye nyina ya mfa anu ntumi zo masa oso wo kwa adwobre wo
ye menim se ma be say ne ma
menko masa no tie fa che me na me nya me kakra nko afa ma mi ka che se wo jaye nya yi enu wadwuma no be na sa wo be we no ka se bia ye mpa che oni wachi a be ka no boko ne ne ye hu de be ye na wasa the antagonism abem abedi ntro
we are secretary ampa
we you go pa anya na wasa kwa kotu socialist be honam se mami sa quotation we MB before committee ne ta kotu pa mama ka jam honam mo sa ade we free MB before
na to say mama ne MPP ne na
fully
and kotu MPP ne ma
me say
MPP before na trouble
professor Marco mo ne ta kotu sa ne mo ye German pastor your friend Martin Nimole
okay
Nimole yeah.
On the Friday came from the socialists.
Namuale
crowd have been so called Brazil. Friday came for the socialists. And I did not speak out. because I was also a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. Yes. And I did not speak out for the Jews. And I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak. For it to surface in your right hand, article, speech, presentation. Now, me for serious.
We are socialist code.
Mami ababe saje we amowie ya wasaji nsu anu maguso. Wa mo obi am
question. Questions maybe sound.
But I want to admonish Mr. Ofori, Akogo, any the other petitioners or say ya omo drag mamin before court.
Wait, misdemeanor Kasankas.
No. Wait for defamation.
Oh, what defamation? What money must say? I don't make us say. And go for him who the petitioners are.
But the above one thing.
They ought not to have been known.
Mami naba what the audio Mr. Ofori try no. What the was that spending about 14 minutes on Mr. Ofori. Such a noble man.
This will be a hunya petition here.
And wo jada yakayaka die.
Will be a
wo jada die ope. Mr. Ofori, opposition no you fro on the babedi ana.
David.
Ompe.
What was said the Amodi Yadu court to Nanya, or a stakeholder in this country? You cannot be a stakeholder in Ghana more than Mr. Ofori, or be your investment. Talk on an investment, said, oh, man. Young Cotia, it is a judicious a Mawa year vacation, one Ukunoni Obiani Tumiko. Yeah, can say official trips. You are not supposed to travel with your husband or any family member.
Official trips.
Official trips?
That was all can be said for security reasons. So you can't go alone.
Alone with you. And not today, you say, oh, qua. One officer of the state, bodyguard, and a bodyguard, and the passport him, nil. This about Kukram Momuda.
Farenko.
Nanya, the other couldn't in Makui. And the mammy, or the bodyguard, number didn't call trips here, and Kavisa and Momubi. And you pay him, Nibi. That is what they're talking about. There is an allegation, so by you know, Womaba Benya contract of 400 and something thousand. Omuna, your friends say, captains, and yeah, judicial launch. Omuna, yeah. So now, when your chief justice, I can mano, if it is true, Combina sa contract.
And that is clear case of conflict of interest.
What is here? I said, we now buy him, and can initial nine of Nanko for claim inside you. 1 million was it. Your coach, Musoro. Utu kwani bi sika bi balance no enyam beduru ye
na amana for balance
I don't know mu ka ya petitioner akwa enti we ene nsem oba betra press conferences ase no press conference abeka ye no owo se wo de ko committee na ere ase na de ko yiwa no ye ne abeka che ye fanya de
ye committee members
ye invite committee na wo de wo ye mo nsem ho a ye ne tie krom no ye fa be ye de be pesa me tie ase de oba ye nei
opese TV.
I see.
Like me oye na na say Ghana mon kama sem mame.
Na be say kama sem mama efutu ni e de ma say. Ye di akoda jesu na ka twen ho.
Na na akoda no.
Ye akoda jesu ye swa no. Ye akoda jesu.
Passion sir.
Oh, na ki ya hwe ne ka yaka. Wo se wo ntie wo betie sa ngofo we.
Dokuna so odin.
Ana ne bebia bedui. Sisi a wa ja tum se bebia dui. Wo yi omu firi mu a osika bebo.
Yeah.
De o mu se edui se yanko pa John Mahama cho.
Say what do you know kra na entitlement.
Sisi ano ye hu se tokono. Ade obeka ye ni nyina sam na wie ye ne se.
Ne yes gracia no.
Yes gracia no. Hwe osro.
Yes John Mahama.
Dear John.
Ayo on fama.
David.
Mr. Ose. Ya yenti ase ma no.
Okru nyame animu.
O jase o.
Me ma na hwe.
Say good governance, you move better.
Wasum 30. Oh, least to wasum 38 years.
No, 38 years, no.
Because
the also some of the man said the ura atuguba. And now say ura era no more. Omo wi. Banum ni omo wi no. Omo wi ni fell so. Oh, and yet guarantee. The way we the tantan.
But when we the tantan, I won't chem half man.
At least more money be.
Yeah, man half.
Money
quarter on. Anything, yeah,
quarter of half is how much? 1/8.
1/8. Yeah, farmer, sir. Yes, half a loaf is better than none.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No. Because yes, sir. No, idea pa, Jadio be a woody, Chevy, dear, a by woman, dear, Yemfa.
Me or your band to meet me as a Yansen.
But I'm that
to me.
the dear quay dear. Tell can now quack, yes, you are sexist.
Mean to make us a Yansen.
But I didn't
Why is it that Bema Semba Yanka?
Of a Bema or buy different. So,
Obani, you refer to Oba to say, Bia, Professor Jinana Pokwaji.
Also different.
It is a work of Fabi before Fra enters our bar. Then it means we are.
Martin, I say, I'm buying some very respondo.
The way.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. A buying can anuntum. They should allow the committee to work.
I believe so.
They should not respond anything.
But there are certain issues.
Mama man, MPP, NDC, and say government should not respond on anything.
Because
we have a committee in place. They should allow the committee. You see, the moment government comes in, MPP, NDC, need a same matter. I'm responding for what? Yeah, but Mohammed. Please, they should allow. Very well, but the point is that they should allow the committee to work. And yes, undermine the power of the committee. We have a committee.
But I think I talk on the last sheet.
What by an MPP and NDC now say?
But the last sheet, right? Because I mean, concluding remarks. No, I think go resign. Go resign.
So I'm submitting some.
But after a year, should say, yeah, get Kevin yeah, into me entitlement. When in someone. Okone on fa money kuto bimu sasa woni aban edi asemwa ya adwene ho miensa so ti ase because one kasa usu no ban ya ene nyoma wo kire time a na wo leading na nyefe 100.5 the last days the oma afenyo ma ye 12 o'clock ye file 3 o'clock ye ka asem na judgment aba. What is this? Where there is no crisis was all can't you see there is a constitutional crisis? Sometimes that crisis will grow.
No crisis.
Mammy, on one creative constitutional crisis, or I didn't no catch.
Justice Jewi, a known MPP judge, contesting with voter region as parliamentary candidate. Tadia sorry, away lawyer. Go. Emma, Speaker of Parliament, say,
go.
Mira, and I'm Mr. Papa, we are Tarano Shekra, MPP at Tadia was here. Uncle, money. A friend called from friends recuse and on recuse no kakra. Was it a be ye kumwa a be a CP before? Just talk good.
She's
professor on why the next MPP women organizer or person took Jim for the over to Kate.
Before say you're 100 years. And you're fair. Now, if you take I expect the Ghana Bar Association ya boa for say no kasa lawyer for ya omundi odipem we a clear case of say wa be good money mase me expect say the Ghana Bar Association ebe je omo license omo de ma no esan say wa good money mase na a lawyer for ne wo krom wa mbe say obuba be defend this atantade efiti e kira de ko e no mbe hye wanika
resi beti banya lawyer necessary e wo phone so and any of the major lawyers in the country, I want to have almost some expert advice on the ruling. Okay, I feel that we higher Accra100 and penny for Ben Waha, Igusudin Kumo, Lepokulisto, of course, you are the Nanusisia, a Solomon Owusu Movement for Change and Chomba political party. Over, Nkomonwa and Ikremu.
Minya Solo Casano. No, I really bad with him. You see, aside from any amount of money, I want to say, or your quotations, we say there are behind her, justices of the Supreme Court.
Sympathetic position,
and it's trying to mean that. About a debo or no touch way. The bebo bawa. What I say? Anaba. Oh. Ayana Nipari finiho. So, Oshe judiciary in Mrs. Does she have anyone that is like her? Very disrespectful. Very intolerant and intolerable.
Yes.
Very rude, arrogant.
So rude. So rude.
Like her. Is she able to tell who is like her?
No, that's so rude. So rude.
At the bench today. Is she able to tell? Oh. You see, Mame no. Like I've said, obi here say ye bema adwimu yare ayarehwe ehia no. Em say ade no wana anye ho.
Ma te say live e crime abai so respond mo be fa dia hwe de ko.
Me pacho if you see government responded, but I'm surprised they are. I mean,
I was also of the view, say.
Me pacho take here bind the no.
And penny force the Jawa near the aswa. No. Say some of these things no.
A pattern they respond they are not buying.
There be man slide there. I buy there. A Ghana for buying NDC for and a yom.
Wa to your matum.
And your man all canon. It was said.
I hear in fact why?
You a perspective.
Yeah.
A nationalistic.
Of course.
Ujai we imane kwa. And no be form an opinion.
I think minimum by adwene you say what you just said. As Rabbi and as party. Send this and respond a different.
No,
we a government for all of us.
Your mind in idea. And mind you say say ujai asem to wa. Na wa money muaya. A bear say your silence would have meant consented to dear. Obeka any.
Na say and also not just me no so the committee na dwuma you.
Say Mami way is leading committee no the original baby. What you say? The committee in the baby jina bedwam no mo sha say omo so ye public discourse there. Then now it is a committee no.
Has been
tempted to make public what ought not to be public.
Exactly.
The committee in there omo nyina baby omo jina. Nemum abai wo asudi e da ne so say oman no say e di asemonsa
e di jaware
e di aso enti dey na mo ka fa ho ama omanfo ati say say maame no the propaganda ne nyoma a odi agu badwamu ne nsem a enimu nyina no waka
nyina
ana waye several accusations ati aban
anwasio
accusations na o ye no na me ka bibi say it is said here, Yedima court. Na mabejina public say court na Yedima court.
Why would I do so?
Nyansenim abababo bi ani.
That will be the basis for me to play such a call. I have never spoken to the Chief Justice in my life. Second, no government official has played such a call. If individuals in their private capacities, in their private lives believe that they have a relationship with her and want to call on her to act one or the other, it is a personal decision that she would have to take. But government or the president cannot force her or even suggest remotely that she should resign. So that must be placed on record. To be fair to her, I don't think that she said that any government official has asked her to do so. So we must also correct the records as they stand. Yes. Yes.
The first time the Chief Justice leaked her own response before getting to the president. The second time, she chose to go the presser and level serious allegations against the government. Do you suspect that the Chief Justice has an ulterior motive to paint this government black?
Well, I cannot ascribe any motive to the Chief Justice except to express regret over an act that may appear to violate the Constitution. But I don't think it would be fair to ascribe any motive. As I said, she has every right to adopt any measure she believes will aid her make her case, except that we all know that it is better to do so using laid down processes. Beyond that, I don't think that anybody can ascribe any ill motives to her. We have a responsibility to correct any misimpression created about how the president has acted. That is the responsibility that I am discharging today. That is all that there is today. Indeed, if there had been no references to murdered judges and the venue, which is a state facility, or some political vendetta or agenda, I will not be addressing you. If it had been purely based on sentiments about the outcome of some court cases or even the process that the committee is using, we would have no locus to wade into the matter. If the committee is minded and they have a way to engage the public, so be it. But I have only addressed you for the sole purpose of correcting what is a false impression that there's some political agenda at play or that the venue has been chosen for purposes of intimidation and as a way of using some dastardly occurrence in the past as a psychological tool to wear anybody down. That is what we decry. We don't think that it has any place in this discourse. It is most unfair, most unjustified, most unwarranted. And that is the reason why I have been compelled to speak to you to clarify that matter. Thank you all for coming.
Junimu. She say, I didn't send nipa wait me a judge crowd Ghana in the first place. Na senka mpese ya odi akwa kodru pempenso afi no waba ye chief justice. Cause so wo hwe nyoma e koso judiciary ho especially at the Supreme Court. Edu baby omo ankasa hu nipa eye kanda pa ba bonten be kan say the way amoye nyoma yi mo ahwe ya mo be ma bojabu ma badako. San say mo ya mana be ye say ase MPP for na hye mo chi say munye wei oh Ghana hanum na yen time fansem enye asem oh yen fa asem onya asem say yen pese yakoya nuanom oh enti tokonu me ne okasei ye beko mu na bia me ofase bi ana se me babi
rebusuani
akọ ena no meti ya me kama asem bi ena me ofase bi afre me oh papa no kura no ne ba me girlfriend no
oh say connection
me ofase a me ti radio so amani abre
of am pesa of so just send connection
kama asem no na I texted me say oh office urgent please let's talk oh
guys asem here bi
asem bi I make asem ni here me pa o afi me pona me friend also of we dey what say my we na papa no cry na ne ba me girlfriend o and I'm say hey I want now dey duro
oh how no na ba bi
oh enti say no just o mo ware a me nko bi no
unko say wo fa so ware unko
na me wo fa say ware na megu ware ya
enti say wo fa say ware obi say gabi o chira akoba be hu ne say
hono me ye busua asema frim na me politics me chem se ne chese nyame mpangu mum chese gabi be me makonta
ana se to kunu bitima ye
kronfo be me makonta se me ofase no wa hwe kronfo abusuam no woko
onye kronfo aya o kan wa che no wawia
enti gabi ye PDS na ni Ghana
Bamiana APD.
Huh? And I know.
You see, one thing about Gabi, he say, he say, that guy is so smart. Say, he does not commit.
You call this madness?
Paperwork. No. You see,
you call this thief.
What year?
They like thief.
What year? Dear, no, you cover no. What year, Jaco? When they are married.
But what's it?
Hey, what's the one on the near bra? Yati committee that Gabi Shati. Another committee on the Agufodo Bomber. What a Gabi I view. What committees of Mugodi and Mary Ejano or Ejumano? No, my son's what different headed by Gabi. Not Gabi, no instruction.
That's what way.
I don't know what change Jagusa say until one in your capacity as who.
Anyways.
Enemy you watch change Jagufu, no, as a fatano.
I me batch of her son in my own Facebook. They are still complaining. Batch up.
You know, I think, say, to Kunwa Semna Abetudano. I wish Senka, and yes, Bia, Nipa Etia. We should treat it with a contempt, the most contempt it deserves. But if we want to be serious as a country, like I've proposed, itemize BBBA, a crime, and I say bia, a misdemeanor, and I say bia, intolerable behavior. You bet me a so, they are punishing. Now, Kayen Shishim, San say, like I've repeated. And ni say sebi obi a ono na asem ewo ahemfie a ye ka no ono be gina badwam say asem a ye ka no ahemfie no me ma adwene nie and you must as well boycott going there and go we in enko council so say isan say misusu say ntanchi abebenti no me boycott my attendance Mede echo a committee in anymore. Also, I've always described a very group in Ghana say me a very lawless lawyers. No, a Kufado say or a lawless lawyer. I mean every MPP lawyer is a lawless lawyer. But Mami Tokuni was show a very high and gross level of lawlessness by way of speaking to the public what should be in camera. I think it's an indictment to not just her person but
very bad.
The state.
Violating constitution.
You know, I think before a matter a hardware, then show how we can delve into it and deal with them. Say and can Make me free. Make me just a small teaser be.
Na yanko break him
about adwuma bi a nyame ya aduma menim da mo be ma me na ka meba we are discussing details cocoa board adwuma no
Friday
da ben
Friday
entiare mo nye flyer
kwa me be ya
mo ma atiefo nyina ehu se nyame ya aduma Friday.
There no be one before the main discussion.
Na yen delve into cocoa board.
Ensem ho
pa.
Enye Friday.
Amanfo aheda committee apam ho awie o man sika twitwiridie. In excess of 230 200 and
cocoa board.
Yes.
All na boy you do
36 to 66 million dollars.
Yes, it is dollars.
$1 million. And it's still counting. Under the guise of cocoa rehabilitation project.
See, you paid in and
you know, now say me call cocoa foam, the cocoa foam ako 13.
Okay.
Yeah. The previous cocoa board no. A high contractor say onko ye adwuma. Adwuma na omo high ni say onko ye no. Wanya adwuma no enso wa disika no. Aban we buy no instead say oye hwehwemu no oyi sa contractor ni si nchen no minua randiabe minua pa randiabe osade adwuma no asa akoma sa company no who say ye be to aba no cocoa farmers no me no na eba efia a omo si etwa mu cocoa agu na ye nnua Kwesiade ye twemu we call 13 different farms in our central region. And timide ayi ni nyina videos ni nyina ma. Na me ya adoma efiada no etiefo nyaso na omuntie de ekoso e wo cocoa board.
So that's a teaser.
De ntia na epoku namo a ne buafu a wo kasa kasa. Anya sese bi papa ngoma so manum de ntia. Ni yem. Me mpese bibi bia beba e begu do ma manimu ase. Because nipa no ba kono ade man wa anye. Ye na chese de ode man fufu obetima ye. Nti anu ya ade a ehu hia me papa nti na me ya adom efiada mpacho me nu ha be time me.
Yes, she time no.
And we won't come at you for Muna or make a date. Oh, sir, you're free to make a date.
If you are there 30 minutes, 3:30 to 4.
3:30 to 4. I said, pay it here.
On 30 minutes in so.
Meshe, I said, pay it here. Because my kung fu be dream.
And for the back, we had to 5 minutes.
Kung fu, Makumako. And still counting.
You bet my
Yami admit now.
You bet my from 3:30 to.
It's a Eastern region.
4:15.
Me call o papa side ho
achim
baby
okay
koko fo ni won
no
nim se ho no me call no mo fa ni galamsey dia
she said it me because me osino in the heart of the town ankasa you took a heart like you see that you come you
very orokodo
it is a do forcing company no afari nek ne mad no mo ye aduma nyame ye aduma efiada
okay
me pese Ghana fo be kom me ma Ghana fo ahu oni ni dwiri mo de adi na onkofo a omo aye omo adwen se omo ehihye omo achi se ko kan esan ewi nkofo ehihye omo achi no
wa na zangofo
awu de jai se duru ho a efiada na ye be bom ama Ghana fo nyina ti
ye matie fo hu se
minia ba ku kumase ye friend Frankie Taylor
okay
na onu duru awia na obo African Express e wo Fox FM o se time kuchu ne fi time kuchu
ola so show
Frankie Taylor show
ola so Fox
ola so Fox
wow
the longest serving friends radio
presenter
wow
ever to have existed in Ghana.
Frankie Taylor
yeah, he's more than 25 years
more than 25 years
and still counting. I mean he's a very loyal servant and a master.
I think he's the longest on Fox.
Oh yes, he's the longest. He's the longest on Fox. He's still there.
Wow.
I say people no know for still.
Shorty.
I don't know say young girls never sorry, but a very, very loyal and I mean that trait is something that I need to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of him. And there is another man called Efo. He's still there. And Ibi no they are there.
Wow.
They are there. Do baby I know mo share no ma text me na ma stress.
Wow.
I greet them all.
Solo.
Anya no anu aka ntiro.
The boys in your court too.
They aka no na aka no. I talk on the why anu ayi. Say onwa no sinka ye Ghana mra no kwa yinsi tirase. Na ono nkoye man live coverage. Abra constitution on odi adwuma no. E ka kire say ye man live coverage. Or the court. Say a more new umumranos.
Very lawless.
Oh, say nyakra. O kokota ono ana focus oba ye dream mumra so oba ya no betwa o madapa. And almost what your mobile the fool. A statement ni. Say me de call aja the for some be kan okra ma me no ana mo kan biara. Say akra de ono wa stand there de ne say ade nyo no na target o. Now, judges at the High Court, Appeals Court, any commissioners of independent state institutions. All body no go electoral commission. The one thing we come say MB before the case, and ya or no talk on the target. Mom, Jane Manson, a friend say, boss one on target. And as we be no mami, and I go electoral commission. The press conference.
That's a meeting.
I should man. Where settings to a beg jar to tea. Say, yeah, one no free one answer. Jane Mansa, you must phone and tell you, and you're quite in every one. What's a man can't say, oh, if you do, I'll be soon. And it's not a kind of woman, every moment did down. As I say, a job is so needless. And yet, on my pan and yet, here, Yako to a baby or calculating of Accra100 to declare not a electoral commission as a salary. Omo ankasa be adoma kase we dey ya peja yensa no omote ho
say no dey self for 4 years so many
no omote ho na o twen to omo nyina na eboa o ma me yedum isia wo sua meet the press o di on sua na kakra fa na hono wa obehu se wa free judge mu wa free dodo ka bia ba ba ko ka bia enye so sad now asemi so da airport wo one send ra almost say your friend say o ma pam nkofo bi wo Bank of Ghana
be 100 or so ana
it's about 97 to 100 yes so o pam mu nyina o fa half mu ja half anamboa airport wo answer no ru akufo do ba be free ho directors miense bi o se clear wo mo o mo da so ho airport na ba we minim say ye hu o say ye suro ayidie ye mo den papa eno go le me take for do so an sorry
be we the simple
be die to tiasi a pen inside say wo tregu mu en enye no go for do mo emodi o wo mo bon what will they
grounds in the same scene you
grounds is so mama airport na ngasa gu wa kesra ngasa kra wo se en clear o airport no bora mo anyi o ma wo dia afese se mbeti o financial position anu ti be bia no a ya to abawie ye a o mo ya appointment eye azaa omo suma fidia ma aban se sankofo no nkosho no mo nya omo ahobrase hene boy bi o yes kit o se ahobrase hene eninti no omo semu a within 2 years emu badwo after 2 years no ma start dibone sata wi na nyeyi
ko atrem for 2 years
o tase
wi na nyeyi ogrofo su gufie ala nyesa omo gufie o enyesa nka how net ala Bank of Ghana Oma Boka only last year 9.49 billion. 2022 60.8
billion. Now last year the crack the bank crash one must say Baumia sa gold for oil or coffee buy scam chrono that tanta the fusano and unquabo manica 1.82 billion. Tell the chroma yam very go. Yes, Nibi. Stubborn, poor brother.
Here is stubborn proud.
Oh, here is stubborn proud. And no, what no, I walk across I could 200. Bank of Ghana personnel cost, and when you pay here, do my trionka as of today, a 2.9 billion, a kind of bomb every year. 2.9 billion, but now Chroma review.
Bank of Ghana.
The chair work is a
2.9 billion cities. 36 are not an assessing.
And then Ghana Sika 2
trillion. Bank of Ghana
2.9 billion personnel cost. As of the last count, we see only 2,508 more.
Let's have we equity presidential machinery.
Yes, I'm here. Meanwhile, Sandy Patrick and in your brain, or net equity position a negative 61 billion.
29 billion.
Now we can find the pegum say
29 trillion.
What I say?
29 trillion.
And what catch now? That is your current year you pay mom. I know much say ashe baby. Mesra mo. We know I am dia mo de bre e be claim because kokram. That year ya kran say.
But talk about Bank of Ghana. Na me share adebi 2012 profit, 2013 profit, 2014.
They can
after 2018,
they can't
loss. Loss of 1.8 billion.
Yes.
Loss of 3.1 billion in 2019.
Yes.
Loss of 6.1 billion in 2020. Loss of 4.6 billion in 2021. Loss of 7.2 billion in 2022. Yes. Loss of 60.8 billion in 2023.
Na omo mo ka se 2024 ye kwa ko print iska. Eno ngwa ye say 1 billion ye ko print Ghana iska. abra only 2023 yes say only 690 million no ya ko 2024 about 20 no na twompo ko 1 billion san nyoma woni ese hwehwem ne so kwabna ne pachi ko so mo wia ye
billion we na me kai sa to force ma ye ko
omo wia
na ai akwa Jimmy Foi ebe di ya tem say ye hooligans okay
ay
Adese
one way
of all the same family members him say on the most
what sampa papa and just all come also mo come na obi a wate akemu bia no omu yi no na wo mu free on mesra wo munye we nya embellishment national scholarship another scholarship secretariat another bomb
I don't know see
sanya kwana wo free okwo wosi bia se ho no ekapa ne connection yeah the kroma sam say business any ntumi nya bia ya nsisa ma ne sika ngodi
solo aya obi ti baby a obeka so tu da ko kasa dodo but nyese kasa o ye mpese mahama be fail say no for kind hwe me be kan say omo wura ho no president mahama ma si obia enye auditing ni akohu ye no
mon kan mo fani nyina
na mo nya nyina na mfa ko obia ye press conference nchire Ghana for
ebuade nyame ka you
can go press conference nchire Ghana for say we na me ko to ye
eka
oh
ya dia di Togo for kraka Togo haya kraka hey and Jamaica dia se o makoburu kegu ko fo de patwa na be kro be danka scholarship
you loan me you pay me
play me you my friend
pay me my money
you go and watch you bring him money here go for the boy fu brutal
say we ta bond to see me and there
ay
I'm the patwa bejiska aji black rasta
akwana wi say hall multi parliament shemra mai what are we talking about how do you know
no MPP for no there omo mu wi escani nyina no
omo go parliament on
anyway they began in 2020
but I thought that man was a cool man
obi to say John Kuma the only reason why he had to run to parliament is because na we really
any IPO no say no
nip okoje the constituency for ni nyina ID card
yeah
no the aba no abeji loan no in their names
mo na Canada
loan grant
yeah mo grant on them
in their names so the constituency no wa abeji o card no o wie ye no
to be general Accra100
o di Accra100 wo ma wo se wa discard
no we no
o shi ana no aka just abai go so
abai adwuma
ekisika na ye dia grant nip no no akwaje ID cards
wa grant no
no dia grant ono ne ho no de mudi ahye system ni
but e phone ni for until you
efunu be di for this year
efunu be di for sa se mu no ka cha
efunu be di for this year
that be efunu di for
efunu di for yeah
that be
efunu di for
ejiwe no na me se wo ko hwe ade a wo se ya sorry dan oba no de yire no sika
osofo
why
honest ye me dey me ni
so mo se so for gege okruwa
osofo dey say
reverend minister
mo da mo ntiche
say reverend ministers na nya nyina ne free nyame
enya reverend minister ba ko ni akobodo ya so the patch wo special prosecutor akoso be amisa dai enya no na nkofa onya reverend
amachino
amisa dai amachino
o mafa no
500 million a year scan
at bank enya chire o the minimum capital requirement 400
million to at bank
national service free
at bank
I'm to bank 540
what you ana mo ya press conference say ala ne apam go for Bank of Ghana kasika ya mo fei mo le tete bank sa go enya mo eshemo
me try me ma buy way up to 1 year had yes
that be mom 1 year mom 7 months
them in terms of say you bet you be atuma me hwa de because em say eye fair say na press briefing na we SP abobi din na say press briefing
na say abobi din
okoba dey na abobi din ya person mo chi obi tum obi ediga na skache ni tum
na Ghana okoba ya ko say okoyi okoba
want to be case no say wete say
kaza bo person mo ya no ya mbaswe dabi mbaswe o sam kofo edi sikana bani edi omani ana anu ya Iran ni yi Israel You can't say, or move up the closest straight of humors. I'll be before her must be but bonnet for pa. No money any ajukuma. Executives know. Are they oil prices because I'm a hot rubber. Now, oh yes, I do, we are. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. The other catcher Ghana for you and say, Momo in down, Namo Mojano. Monfort Gentria, one more to take a decision or two. No one could take a decision about mine or mine yet. And yes, our man, one day a Tian will be the papers free. Afghanistan, Basso Wato. The Yen I am quite on Machia Kung Fu Marco too heavy. The whole amount say, and yes, sir. I can't think far.
Abdul Wahab Hanan. Na owo
na
buffer stock. Yes, ya fano.
O ma fano ho.
O ma fano.
NIB na
Yoko.
O ma fano ho.
Yes or no active.
Da bi ma te hona wuntu bi ko ba ye on na ma wo che wo so pie na da wuntu bi pie no. Wo ye no so yare. Any 5 hours I don't start to Jan Naso.
That is Oba for national chairman.
Because we for national chairman.
MPP.
No, you make kai.
Na MPP Papa Benio.
And also Martin Institute.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you for having us. And happy birthday, go for it.
And go for birthday.
It's Yama go for it. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. ADC, I don't know. What time will permit us to draw curtains? We have two birthday celebrants celebrating their birthday today. And it is our joy that we share in their joy as well. Firstly, happy birthday going out to you, Reverend Emmanuel Doku. Reverend Emmanuel Doku is National Coordinator of Ghana Baptist Men's Ministry. It's your birthday today, and we join the rest of the world to salute you, sir. May the good Lord bless you beyond measure and grant you all your heart desires. Enjoy your day to the fullest, sir. And this is coming from Ghana Baptist Convention, also led by Emmanuel Ayi of Class Media Group. Again, happy birthday to Deacon Richard Annan of Winners Baptist Church, Dome. As you turn 69 years today, Deacon, it's our prayer that the good Lord will bless you beyond measure as well. We hope that God will expand your coast and tentacles and uplift you onto the pinnacle of success. And as Kwame Kwache, my producer, Emmanuel Ayinti, share on Facebook. Made the Indiana Otu Darko. Yeah, Gloria, you're not feeling well. I want to use this opportunity to wish you well. I wish you speedy recovery. Sweetheart, baby, I'll be fine. Why? Okay.